the fence rests, let's lay it down. Gonna dig deep, wave that verdict round. The defense rests, time to analyze. With the evidence, we'll unveil the crime. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule at the defense rests.
Hello. All right. Welcome to Saucy Sunday. My YouTube just rejected my comment. How dare they? Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Well, it's Monday here. Just. Did we have a good weekend? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Elizabeth, you're a crack up. And you shop away, Anna. Shop away. I've been doing that today myself, trying to get stuff organised for the weekend. We have a jam-packed week. Let me give you the tip. Good morning, sweetness. Good morning. And it's always a great day to snuggle up in a blankie with me. Right here. You pack of dags. Yes, reject. And do you know what the message was? It was, it's always a good day to do that, my lovelies, with 2 smiley faces. And then it rejected it. So I had to type it again and put, it's always a good day for that, my lovelies, instead of to do that. I didn't even say it's a fucking great day to do that, and it rejected it. Nothing. Good morning, Christine. How are you, darling? I off to church. Oh, you'll have to say a few for me because it's going to take a while. Not just one. That won't cut it. Not in a million years. So, where do we start? Okay, this week I'm actually streaming today because I didn't realise how long this trial actually is. Like, there's 16 days. And we're on the end of day 3, and we've got to get through it before Sunday because I've got to know what I'm talking about. Yeah, up shit creek without a paddle, but that's okay. We'll sort it. Plus, we also have tomorrow is Sarah Boone sentencing. Tuesday we have Ashley Banfield sentencing. Wednesday, we've just got Zachariah Anderson, just that. Thursday we have Zachariah Anderson, Melody Farris sentencing, and yours truly's birthday. Friday we've just got Zachariah Anderson, and then Sunday we've got the podcast with Nick Starrow, who I've been watching all weekend, actually. So there is a podcast apparently that does in 6 hours it does a full summary of this case. So if we get to Friday and we're nowhere near on target, we'll just revert to that. Yeah. Oh dear. Oh, is it cold over there? Is it 3 blankets? No, I'm singlet top, and it's 1:20 in the morning, and I'm about to put the fan on because it's hot in here. Yes, Thursday. And I deliberately wrote that like that because in Australia we call it Sunday. There's no way. Happy Sunday. Just like Andy. Right. Now, I wanted to also give you an update on the sales so far and how much we've raised. So let's have a look. I'll add to stage. So this is as of today. We've had 8 purchases and $31.89 to date saved as a fundraiser. So I'll be keeping you all up to date on how that's going. So share the link to whoever you like. And yeah, anything, any sales on there, like it doesn't have to be stuff for Thai. Although you're more than welcome to. The bumper stickers I'm going to buy myself because I like them. And what else have we got? What else? Oh, I've done the schedule, done the merch. Oh, tomorrow, hopefully Ty will be getting all of his belongings back from the property office. So he should have his mobile phone back and his laptop, and hopefully he can get back online, which would be good. Well, now, hello, wenches. How much did you spend? 27 degrees here. That's Fahrenheit, yeah? So what does that mean in Celsius? Because it's... Oh, huh. My calendar is in Celsius, in Fahrenheit, 64 degrees Fahrenheit here at 1:30 in the morning. Why did that change to that? That's bizarre. Some bizarre things have been happening with me and this computer lately, I have to say. Last week, it was picking up all sorts of stuff. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you very much. Tanya texted me today and she says, "What are you doing Thursday?" I'm like, sulking. Sulking. So I'll be getting older. You know what? Saggies rock. We rock. Yep. We're very passionate beings, but we're very we're very, I don't know how to say it, not accepting, but we accept everybody, and we take a lot. But once you get to a certain point with a Saggy and you reach that point, look out. You push too many buttons. It takes a while to push them, but when you get there, brace yourself. It's fucking cold here. Yep. I was looking on Temu yesterday and today for stocking fillers, and it's a tradition in my household to find the funniest things that you can, and we just put so much crap in there. It's hysterical. And yeah, it's like a competition on who can put the funniest, weirdest crap in there. Well, I found a place that Mama's got to win today. Mama's got to win this weekend, that's for sure. I bought a calendar of cats' buttholes. Yep, every month has a different cat's butthole on it. And I bought this toothpaste thing, and it screws onto your open toothpaste tube, and it's basically a dog. So when you when you squeeze the tube, it looks like the dog's shitting on your toothbrush. It's gold, absolutely gold. Yeah, so I am going to have fun because we celebrate our my girls and I celebrate our Christmas a couple of weeks early because Christmas is so busy for them. Alicia works in the retail industry right up till 6 o'clock. Christmas Eve, and I know what that's like. 12-hour days for 2 weeks. It's nasty. And of course, they've got me, my ex-husband, then their partner's parents who have split up as well. So they're going to be running around like dickheads Christmas Day. And I don't want 2 minutes at the end of the day when they're exhausted. So we schedule ours 2 weeks early. So that's on this weekend too. All right. Snow on the ground. Wow. Not here. Not here. Oh, this is on the 8th. Yeah. And they rock, don't they? Yeah. That was just a couple of the things. I can't remember them all, but there was one, I think. Oh, it's a visual one. I can't really say that word on it. Too. If I find, I'll try and screenshot it and upload it to my emails and share it later. It's funny as. Yep. There's a couple of different card games, and I'm actually going to do it as like a pass the parcel. So each layer unwraps a different present. Oh, stupid present, basically. I've got a calendar of mullets, best mullets, for my nephew. Anywho, all right, enough waffle. That was another one. I'll take some screenshots. I have to show you. They are funny as. So we shall listen to Mr. Not Inside Voice for a bit longer. Now we stopped at 6:45 on Friday. So we are at 6:45. Done my to-do list. Buckle up, bitches. We're going to be busy beavers. And by Sunday, you're going to be going, not here again. Oh, that's the other thing. They had a bag of brass little bombs that had an F on them. So little F bombs. This is Temu. And I just typed in silly adult novelty gifts or something like that. Yep. And they were cheap, really cheap. Like, I didn't spend a fortune, trust me. All right. Let's do it, shall we? Let me know if the sound is okay.
Correct. Well, here's the problem, and I'm not criticizing anybody.
Yes.
This case is coming in with an enormous amount of evidence, which ordinarily would be totally inadmissible. And you said it a moment ago when we first started talking about this, you referred to it as a note which has been determined to be from the daughter. So there's some more that we're not apparently going to get into, but it's an example of how things without any sponsorship are getting into the record. And it really is bothering me. Sooner we can move into a problem which is going to torment the jury.
And can we get a ruling though on the scope that the state can go into as it relates to that?
As I said before, I really can't pre-screen.
Understood. So I'll just make
go into.
Understood. I will then just renew the objection where I find appropriate.
Thought his purpose, I understood, was to demonstrate that it did not.
One of the candles said, "This flame represents our friendship. If you forget to light me, I'll burn your fucking house down." I was going to get that for Tanya.
Did not appear that the bed had been slept in during the period indicated.
Since she left, since the note was placed there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, my Lord. Bring the jury, for fuck's sake. Come on. Bring them.
What's that?
And
Down in a contempt, yes.
Shall I proceed?
You please do.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Detective, I again ask you to turn your attention to
They're still on that.
Defense
Yes,
Exhibit
wasn't
60.
they?
You've indicated previously that's the bedroom. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that there was no DNA, there was no blood evidence that you saw at, again, in your opinion, in this room, is that right?
Not that I saw.
Conditions were muddy and rainy on this day, is that correct?
Yes.
Was there any evidence on the windowsill that you yourself noticed that somebody would have entered knowing that it's wet and rainy over the last several days?
Not that I saw, but I also can't say I examined it thoroughly either.
That's not something you focused on?
No.
Is there a pink note on the bedroom pillow in this depicted here?
Yes.
And is that a note appears to be the author appears, at least by the note, to be the daughter of Rosario
I'm
Gutierrez?
going to object as far as foundation and speculation.
Well, I thought that's where we drew the line.
That was my impression that,
It's, the defense's position is that it's not relevant what the contents of the note are or who authored
Yes,
it.
you can send me an email.
No
worries, help. And absolutely.
The remark that I made at the time was that,
If it's about Ty, though,
about,
Christine, I don't know
um,
anything. I don't know any more
objections.
than what I said
But I think that,
earlier.
that was the understanding was.
So I can't help you if it's.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
Is
It's
I don't know
unrelated,
the name
no.
of the individual, but
I'm
does
hoping
the
to hear
note
more
appear
tomorrow.
indicate an author?
We'll see.
Yes.
And is that is the author a person related to Rosario Gutierrez?
His daughter.
His daughter. Okay. And is the note placed physically on a bedroom pillow?
Yes.
Are you aware of when last Rosalio's daughter was located at his apartment so she'd have access to his bedroom?
That's
She was at the house on the 17th through the early afternoon-ish hour.
So that pillow had a note on it, and that daughter is under 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she was last at the residence on the 17th in the afternoon.
Yep. So much better.
no worries.
Detective, what is your estimate on how many interviews you personally were involved in this case? What would be your general estimate?
25 or so.
And
Around.
and did that involve a number of people, a wide variety of people from all different directions in this case?
That's
Yes.
gold.
And at any point that you came upon something that was evidence that persons were involved somehow in the disappearance or murder of Rosario Gutierrez, at each of those occasions, did you pursue that evidence when it was apparent to you based on all those interviews?
If I didn't directly, I would pass it on to other detectives that would follow through with that.
For the question, John, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to pull up the.
Do you know, I went to it, I have to say, I went to a girlfriend's place for the night last night. And I don't even know how we got onto it. Oh, we were talking about she has a friend or two friends. One no, both born female, and identified as male. So they wanted to have, they were on hormone treatments, and they were actually in a relationship with one another. And so Jody, straight down a rabbit hole, asking questions like, how do they convert that to that, from that to that? So we end up watching all these implant videos. I don't know why her boyfriend left. My bad. The funny thing was, I said, how do they pump it up? Do they like put a little balloon in the nutsack?
Gotcha.
Yeah, they do.
So the state had in redirect asked you about that there were portions of the
I
van
know.
that had been selectively cleaned. The area under where the missing carpet is, that area, to your observation, had not been cleaned, correct?
I'm sorry, what area?
Where the metal is exposed, that there was dirt and other items that show that area had not been cleaned.
You go,
Objection.
girl.
The removing of the carpet would be the cleaning.
Well, I'm asking if under the carpet was cleaned.
Irrelevant whether you cleaned under the carpet.
I don't think that's,
I don't want to preclude her examination, oral.
I can re-ask it, that
Please.
in that area, sorry, Detective, in that area where the metal is showing where the carpet used to be, there's a lot of dirt and other scraps indicating that that area hadn't been scrubbed clean, correct?
There is dirt and there is things over the metal.
Okay, thank you. I don't need Exhibit 263. Thank you, State. The state had asked you about the efforts that you observed in the minivan were concerning to you, and you had said that it was not normal, correct?
Correct.
But you'd agree there are plausible other explanations for why an individual cleans a work van, correct?
I'm sure you could come up with some.
I can't believe they're still asking
And
this
the
guy.
state had asked you
question.
about the screen door being open. You said yes, but you were not the first officer on scene, correct?
I was not the first officer, no.
So you wouldn't know how that door was observed when officers first responded.
Correct.
The state just now, the last question that it asked you, had to deal with all the interviews that you had with people. So I want to kind of break that down a little bit. You spoke with Michael Campbell, correct?
Yes.
He was just a friend of Mr. Gutierrez.
Correct.
You spoke to Eileen Knoll, correct?
Correct.
She was a friend of Mr. Gutierrez.
Right.
And they didn't provide you any investigatory leads, correct?
Correct.
You then spoke to Sadie Beecham, correct?
Yes.
And it was your prior testimony that she had immediately stated that she believed her ex, Zachariah Anderson, had something to do with it, correct?
Yes.
And you followed up on that one, right?
Yes.
All right. And you also spoke to Olivia Anderson, correct?
Yes.
And that was in relationship to Mr. Anderson, correct?
Yes.
You interviewed Mr. Anderson himself, right?
Yes.
And you interviewed Christine Remsburg, correct?
Yes.
That was the girlfriend of Mr. Anderson.
Correct.
So she only dealt with Mr. Anderson, right?
Yes.
And you interviewed, I'm probably going to butcher her name, but Casalina Remsburg.
I believe she went by Cassie. Yes.
And that's Christine Remsburg's sister, correct?
Correct.
Again, relating only to Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
And then you spoke with Andrew Schultz, correct?
Correct.
That was a friend of Mr. Anderson's, correct?
Yes.
And then you spoke to Alex Wetzel,
Yes.
again, a friend of Mr. Anderson's, correct?
I believe it was a cousin.
You talked to him only as it related to Mr. Anderson, though, correct?
Correct.
And then you spoke with an individual named Amber Stark.
Yes.
And she was the girlfriend of Alex Wetzel, correct?
Yes.
And that had to deal with confirming his whereabouts the weekend of May 17th through
Objection
May.
is to hearsay.
I'll rephrase the question, Judge. You spoke to her as it relates to your investigation of Mr. Anderson.
Correct.
And then you met and interviewed Solomon Anderson, correct?
Correct.
And that's Mr. Anderson's brother.
Yes.
And then you interviewed Jennifer Libers, correct?
Yes.
And that's Solomon Anderson's girlfriend, correct?
Yes.
And then you interviewed Joshua Anderson, correct?
Yes.
That's Mr. Anderson's other brother, correct?
Yes.
And then you interviewed Zenith Anderson, that's Mr. Anderson's sister, correct?
Correct.
Then you
Uh,
interviewed Stephen
Elizabeth?
Lenz, correct?
Yes.
That's a friend of Mr. Anderson.
You'll like this one. This is on Timu. Mm-hmm. Yep. And what else is in my cart? It's not even a funny one. Where's the rest of my orders? Go back. Back. Okay, there's got to be some funny ones in this one. I can't show you that. That's for Tanya, but this one's funny as. Yeah. I baked you some shut the fuck up cakes. Shut the fuck up cakes. Gold. Oh, what else is in there? I got my daughter that. Oh, this one's funny. There you go. Nothing. It's a gift of nothing. Thing. What's it say on it? Make something out of nothing for the person who has everything. The perfect gift of nothing. Nothing is better than a Valentine. Nothing is better than a Valentine's Day. What does the happy married couple need for their honeymoon? Nothing. Oh my God. Are you sure? Oh, it's a bad drag. Bad drag. Big girl panties? Granny panties? What does that say? Good friends. Oh, like your best knickers. Okay. Mm-hmm. I like this mug here. It's Freddie Mercury. I want to drink tea. Oh, makes me laugh. Age eraser. Anti-nagging kit. Coochie corks. I bought them. Happy birthday, you fucking fossil. Oh, look. Shaken tits and taken shits. Oh, why did I say that? 59 cents. Sorry. I digress. I love Temu. I'd like to thank my middle finger. Oh dear. I always get distracted. Sorry. Not sorry.
So who did you interview that provided you other investigatory leads other than Mr. Anderson?
I didn't say I found any.
I did say,
I didn't say I found any other ones.
No further questions.
Were you just asked whether you spoke to
Can you
whom
just
need
give this man a
more?
break?
Yes, that's another one, Kim.
Was that included in the list you were just asked?
No,
Okay, so that's not a person related to Mr. Anderson, is it?
correct.
And when you spoke to Michael Campbell, he provided you information that Rosario Gutierrez had given him that led you towards the defendant.
I'm going to object as far as hearsay.
Oh,
Also leading.
I'm going to
So
object.
there's just been a whole series of people listed, and they said there are no investigative leads that you pursued. I'm suggesting there are investigative leads on certain ones, and I'm asking
He's
again,
not-
using the identical list of people that they just talked about. I'm not required to only talk about whether he found any leads that don't involve Mr. Anderson.
Judge, if I may, the state asked them, oh, you interviewed a bunch of people and you followed all those investigative leads. I then went into all the people he talked about. I asked him about Michael Campbell. He answered it. Now he's trying to go into exactly the information that Mr. Campbell had allegedly provided. And additionally, if the state is going to make commentary about what he wants.
I tell you what, while I was watching Nick Starrow on the weekend, he had done a stream as the trial was going because he believes he's innocent. And he was playing the interrogation of Zach when the police called him in, because they initially called him in under the guise of being charged with stalking. And I heard a little bit of background stuff that Nick had said. So apparently, leading up to this, Nick and his wife have 3 children, a daughter who was, I think, 12 at the time, and then twin boys who were about 4. And they were going through a custody battle at the time. And there was some text messages between between Sadie, the ex-wife, and the victim, Mr. Gutierrez, conspiring to break Zach's leg, apparently, and they weren't allowed to be entered into evidence for the trial. But when it came to the child custody, apparently she was in the habit of crying DV when there was no DV. And when I watched the actual interrogation, he was cool, calm, collected. He came across as credible. He didn't stumble on anything. He had an answer for everything without even hesitating. It was like, and it gave me a different. It really gave me a different view on him as, not being behind the defendant's table as a person. Just, this is what happened, and I can actually see how things snowball to where they are now. So yeah, just a little bit of I object. Yes. Good morning, Cindy. How are you, darling? you missed the Temu, the adult shopping.
Wants the witness to answer to. I'm going to ask that be done outside the presence of the witness.
Evidence you're hearing, when I was
I think.
about a third of it,
Oh Lord.
a third of the entire book was about the hearsay rule.
Oh,
Christian made his
really?
who's not on the witness stand.
All right.
Sometimes that's what it
We're
is.
going to the next witness.
But sometimes a lot of it
Can you
isn't
do it
really
any
being
longer?
offered to prove. My
Can I have 30 seconds just to talk to co-counsel and just inquire about?
Brewers fans here. I'll like
Come on. Yay.
the whole truth and nothing but the truth so help you God.
No,
Please be seated.
I'm here to lie.
Ms. Swanigan, could you please state your name for the record and spell it?
Marissa Swanigan,
Yes, me too.
Marisa, Swanigan, Swanigan.
And are you currently employed in some way?
Yes,
And what in general do you do?
management.
I'm going to direct your attention all the way back to May of 2020.
Ladies.
On May 17th of 2020, were you
Good
living
one.
at the Wood Creek Apartments,
Good one, Cindy.
specifically 3709 15th Street, apartment 2B?
Yes,
And that apartment, was that on the first floor, second floor, or somewhere else?
the second floor.
So did you have a downstairs neighbor directly below you?
Yes,
And did you know him in passing, just being essentially apartment mates?
yes.
And did you know anything about his family situation in passing?
Just 2 kids that I would see in passing.
And were they young kids, probably 12 and under, let's say?
Yes,
Did you know if 1 boy, 1 girl, 2 boys?
1 boy, 1 girl.
Okay. And do you recall having contact with law enforcement on the 19th of May of 2020, where they asked you, did you hear or see anything on the days preceding that caused you some sort of concern from the downstairs apartment?
Yes.
And what, if anything, do you recall telling law enforcement about your observations that they were asking about?
Just hearing loud banging, like against the wall.
And was this specifically on did you have a specific night that you had heard this?
It was a Sunday night.
So that would be May 17th?
Yes.
And when you heard this, approximately what time was it, if you recall?
thought it was the
Between 10 and
19th.
11
And where were you in your apartment when you heard this noise coming from downstairs?
in my bedroom.
And at that time, were you living in a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yes,
And was your bedroom at the back end of your apartment, so all the way through?
yes.
And based on where you were in your bedroom, could you tell in general where this banging noise was coming from?
Mhm.
Yes.
And how are you able to make that determination?
it wasn't coming, the sound wasn't coming directly from under me. It was more so further in front, but below me, if that makes sense.
And so in your knowing the layout of the apartment, what room of the apartment below you did you believe this banging to be coming from?
The living room.
And approximately how long do you remember this banging to have occurred on the 17th between approximately 10 and 11 p.m.?
About 5 minutes.
And at that time, did you hear any speaking or any sort of anything else, or just the banging?
Just the banging.
And in your experience as a human being, did you have any sort of thought as to what that banging could be in your mind while you were in bed hearing it?
A good time?
I initially thought maybe something that was really big might have fell, or if the kids were still there, that they were playing around and they knocked something over.
And you said the banging went on for approximately 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And then once that 5 minutes stopped, did you hear anything further?
No.
And obviously, hearing that banging, knowing that kids sometimes are downstairs, you didn't call 911 that night?
No.
But when asked about, had you heard anything in the days preceding the 19th of May, that's what you were able to tell officers?
Yes.
And you were for sure on it was Sunday night between approximately 10 and 11?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I heard it.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Councilor Clement?
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hey, so just a couple of follow-up questions. This banging or the sound that you heard, you said in between 10 and 11. Do you remember if it was closer to 11? Do you have a more specific time?
I would say closer to 10, like a little after 10.
And when you spoke with law enforcement, do you remember telling them that you didn't see anyone or you didn't see any cars?
Yes.
Did you look out your bedroom window?
No.
Okay, so you were just staying in bed.
Yes.
Okay. And so all your observations was this sound.
Yes.
And prior to hearing the sound, I hate to go into your whole sleep schedule, but got to do it.
No, you don't.
How long were you in bed prior to hearing that sound?
Maybe 2 hours.
Okay, and were you awake and in bed?
Yes.
Okay, and prior to hearing this banging sound, did you hear anything else suspicious?
No.
So you didn't hear any screams?
No.
You didn't hear anyone arguing?
No.
And I want to talk about the apartments in general. How long did you live there for?
About 3
Who
years.
fucking cares?
And clearly you could hear what had happened when you heard this banging, but in general, tell me about how private that apartment building is as far as being able to hear what's going on in your neighbor's apartment.
It's pretty quiet.
But can you hear things coming from the apartment across from you or below you?
It would have to be really loud, but if it wasn't, yes.
And so after and you're sure that this was Sunday night?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear anything the following day?
No.
Okay. Did you see anything the following day?
No.
And were you there the following day or were you at work?
I was there.
Okay. All day?
I believe I went to work at 9 o'clock Monday night.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that you didn't hear any sounds of glass breaking?
Yes.
Okay. But you said that I'm just trying to really get what this sound was that you heard. I know it's hard. I know it was a while ago. And you previously described it as something falling off the wall. But is there any other way that you can describe this sound?
It sounded like
Chick-fil-A?
just something big being forced against the wall.
Okay. In the living room?
Yes.
I don't have anything further.
Oh, thank fuck.
No, nothing further. Thank you.
You may step down, man.
Thank you.
I
What's
think
the
you
matter
folks have
there?
put in a full day and it's a good time to stop.
Can we read the
Can we read the
stipulation?
stipulation?
You may.
Okay.
You can read the stipulation all you like. We're moving on to day 4.
Yes, I would like to read the first part.
Okay.
And I probably should have queued that up. Righto. Playlists. Day 4. Alrighty. CC's on. And unmute. Let's boost that. I can't hear it.
Morning. Would you tell everybody we are going to be
Nope.
getting started in a few minutes? We've got a little bit of a delay down here, and it won't be long, but I just wanted to, well, at least.
They do a lot of fucking about in this court. Okay, in comes the jury. Right. And action.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let's continue with the state's case, Mr. Gravely.
The state calls Christine Rensburg to the stand. Or I just have not turned it on. I apologize.
Guilty as charged. All right.
Is that a joke, Judge? No pun
The
intended.
testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Ms. Rensburg, you need to speak right into that microphone, okay?
Let me move the chair quick.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
Can you state your first and your last name, and please spell both your names for the record?
Christine Rensburg, CHRISTINE
And Ms. Rensburg, how old are you today?
33.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 42. In the meantime, Ms. Rensburg, while this is being done, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
And how many times?
3.
Ms. Rensburg, again, I'm going to show you what's been marked as, counsel, is that, again, is it 42, Defense Exhibit 40, or is it State Exhibit 42? I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 42 up on the screen. Do you see that picture?
Yes.
And you recognize that individual?
Yes.
What is that individual's name?
Zachariah Anderson.
Do you see what that person's wearing in terms of above the waist clothing?
Yes.
And how would you describe that outer garment?
His flannel coat.
Is that something that you recognize as a item regularly worn by Mr. Anderson?
Absolutely.
And is this an item that you ever came in possession of? In other words, after 2020, was this either left at your house or ever something you had?
A couple times, like when he would stay over, it could have been left at the house, but I never took it to him.
What was her name? That's not his ex, is it?
Ms. Rensburg, you need to speak right into that microphone, okay?
Let me move the chair quick.
Okay, yep.
Okay.
Can you state your first and your last name, and please spell both your names for the record?
Christine Rensburg, CHRIST.
No.
So Monday morning, were you again texting back and forth with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'll ask you if you recognize this text. Can you read that text?
The timing's off on his voice.
It's going to be a long day. Still haven't got to work. Hit you
I'm
up later.
going to object at this point. I'm going to ask that he ask a question and she responds.
Okay. Well, I'm reading the text. These are stipulated records. I'm reading them and asking him, is she familiar with them?
I'm not sure if you're suggesting that this is Becoming a narrative, or if you're objecting to this as being leading or something?
Well, one, it's leading. Two, it is a narrative if he's just going to be reading things and at her text that he had.
Okay, so again, I'm going to read it just for purposes of you not having to approach. I'm going to read you the content of the text again.
Okay.
It's going to be a long day, still haven't got to work, hit you up later, babe. Is that a text you received from the defendant's phone on the time period that is noted as 8:54 a.m.? Is that?
Can you hear clicking in the background of this? Or is it just me?
A time you received that text?
Yes.
Okay. So when the defendant texted you and said, I've had a nap, and so that's why I haven't answered any of your texts, you don't know for sure if he had a nap.
Objection leading.
Well, this particular question I don't think is suggested.
Might refresh this page. It's a noise in the background.
8:54 a.m. Is that a time you received that text?
Yes.
Okay. So when the defendant texted you and
yeah.
said, I've had a nap, and so
Can
that's
you
why
hear
I
it
haven't answered any of your texts, you don't know for sure if he had a nap.
Objection leading.
Well, this particular question I don't think is suggestive of a particular answer.
I think it is, because I think the proper question, Judge, would be when you received that text, did you know exactly what Mr. Anderson was doing?
Well, that would be a better version. I'll grant you that. But it's I don't think it's one where there's particular concern about coaxing the witness into a particular answer. So the objection's overruled.
Did you know one way or another whether he was taking a nap when he texted you or had been?
How could I? I was at home.
Okay. And when you received the 8:52 text indicating that the defendant had not yet arrived at work, you had no idea where he was, did you?
Absolutely not.
Have anything else on those things? You can take those off.
Of course, they don't have a full trial, do they? The noise has stopped now. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me see who else might have it.
On that Monday, when, after the text that said, I'm not at work yet, do you recall when the first time you saw the defendant was on the 18th? Like, what time did you first meet up with him in any place? Your place, his place on the 18th?
Was that Tuesday?
It was a Monday?
Tuesday.
So, what?
Was it Tuesday?
It was a Monday. Only if you know.
I don't remember. I just know on Tuesday is the movie night, and I was over there around 7.
Do you remember telling law enforcement that on May 18th, you went to his home about 6 p.m.? So that would be the Monday that you also went.
I'm just confusing dates. Okay.
Did you
Yes,
do that on
was Monday.
On Monday?
Yes.
But were you also there on Tuesday, the day he was arrested?
Yes.
Okay. On the 18th, when you went over to his house, so that's that Monday, did you have the Audi that day as well?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Let's examine.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Remsburg.
Hi.
So I want to go back a little bit. The state had been talking to you about the first statement you gave law enforcement on the 19th, and then the second time you talked to them 2 days later. You had told law enforcement on the 19th that you had memory problems, and that's why it would probably be better to ask your sister, right?
I didn't specifically say that I have memory problems. No, but considering me and my sister lived together, and I was going back to work, and I do have shit drinks. So no, I'm not good at remembering dates, but knowing my routine. And that was what I told the authorities.
So, but when you told
Good morning, Sharon. How are you, sweetheart? I've been trying to find a different feed because this feed's got like a background ticking noise in it. And it's giving me the shits, but I couldn't find anything. So I just put in YouTube search engine for Zachariah Anderson trial. And this is what came up. Ah, look who's that. Third from the top. He's famous. And yeah, no one else. Oh, Fox 6. Fox 6 might have it. Get on and have a look.
Individual, that they had tunnel vision, an extremely proper defense.
Hush. Zip it. Playlist. Come on. Show me the Zachariah. Mm. Oh. 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 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute here. 4 minute there. Not the full trial. God damn it. So only with the one feed then. Unless we stream someone else's stream. But then they're probably watching it and streaming it from this channel anyway, so it'll be in theirs. Sorry. Shit out of luck. I tried.
Them that it was because you weren't 100% sure.
Yes,
Okay.
because usually he was over there. The only time that he wasn't over there, either we were working or he was with his kids.
And so then on the 21st, which was 2 days after you first spoke with law enforcement, you told them after seeing more information that he was not at the house on the 17th, correct?
Correct. And when I got asked,
Even the voice, like the whole video is off sync. Like the voice doesn't match the sound, the audio.
and I thought he was there, I even had them look at my phone. So for them to say that I lied or I was covering up and harass me about it, it's not right. It's not okay.
Because you weren't covering anything up, correct?
No, I was just going by memory. I got hit that my boyfriend's in some kind of trouble. I asked the captain what's going on and he couldn't even tell me.
Oh my Lord.
I didn't know until later on at all, nothing. And everybody feels like they're attacking me from authorities from this way and this is going on. No one really cares about what I go through. I didn't want to come back here because of the harassment I've been through. And I'm here.
And it's because law enforcement never really wanted to hear your story, right?
Exactly.
You felt like they were pressuring you into what they wanted you to say.
I just felt they were thinking I was hiding something, pulling something when there was nothing there to pull.
Because when you were with Mr. Anderson on those days and talked to him, there was nothing suspicious, right?
Objection. Calls for hearsay.
The objection, well, it's leading.
This is cross-examination,
Right.
so I can lead.
Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was in first year of law school.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Yes, you're correct about that.
Oh my God. Really?
Well, the objection's overruled.
Do you want me to re-ask the question?
Yeah.
I just said that during the times from May 17th to May 19th, 2020, when you either saw or were talking to Mr. Anderson, there was nothing suspicious.
That's an argumentative question based on my new understanding of what argumentative objections are in this courtroom.
I'll rephrase it.
It asks to make a conclusion, and it's an argument.
The objection is sustained.
When you spoke with Mr. Anderson on May 17th, 2019, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And the text messages before that the state had read to you about Mr. Anderson taking a nap, you remember receiving that text?
Yes.
And you said you had been dating Mr. Anderson for about a year?
Yes.
And during that year, I'm assuming you've known Mr. Anderson to sleep.
Yes.
And were there times where he would also nap?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So receiving a text that he was napping, that wasn't anything out of the ordinary from your experience.
No.
And it's true too that during your entire relationship, there were times where perhaps you had planned on meeting up, but then that didn't happen because something else came up.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Like he had sometimes Mr. Anderson would have his kids,
No,
Yes, the
not
schedule would
just away.
change with the kids often.
and sometimes he would be tired from work.
Oh,
So-
no.
So it
well,
wasn't
definitely
bizarre that
due to
he
time
wasn't
from
able
work.
to come over that evening.
Judge, again, this is propensity evidence and it's an argument.
Good morning, Miss.
It's actually a
Judith.
follow-up of the state's questioning
This-
of her.
Objections overruled.
You can answer that question if you remember.
Could you repeat it?
This
Yeah,
is
of
giving me
course.
the
I said
shits.
that there was nothing bizarre then on the 17th about
The
him.
micromanaging of the questions and the judge. What the? Happy Sunday. Sleazy Sunday, sultry Sunday. What do we call it? I can't even remember. Yeah, maybe. I don't like her bottom teeth. She looks like Oscar the Grouch.
Him not coming over because he had fallen
Is she a
asleep.
hottie?
No, it's not bizarre. No.
And when you talked to him, there was nothing out of the ordinary about the conversations that you had with him that evening, correct?
It calls for hearsay. It's the words "talk to him" are in it.
I'm not asking what he said.
The objections overruled.
It's a characterization of a conversation. I apologize, Judge, but I do.
Talking objections.
It's a characterization, but it is not seeking what is asserted in the conversation to prove the truth of it.
It would have to be based on things that this defense attorney are not allowed to bring up. So it is hearsay. If you say I don't, that's hearsay. The phrase, the question.
Whether the witness true or false.
Oh my
Or
God.
anything suspicious about that phone call.
You think she's a hottie?
Can
You
you
haven't
repeat
seen her
your
bottom teeth.
question? Sorry.
Sure, I'll repeat it in full. The phone call that you had with Mr. Anderson the evening of May 17th, 2020, there was nothing suspicious about that phone call, correct?
No. I would have remembered something otherwise. To me, it was just a normal phone call. I don't remember exactly what we talked about even then. It's usually around the same thing. It was nothing I need to put on the schedule, so why would I?
And then you spoke with him, and then the next morning he texted you that you texted him, and then he texted you back that he was heading to work, right?
Yes.
And was that normal from your observations of Mr. Anderson that he would go to work in the mornings?
Yes.
And you were aware that Mr. Anderson was doing construction contracting work at a home up in Belgium, Wisconsin?
Yes.
And your understanding, where was Mr. Anderson going to work on that morning when he texted you?
I'm not really sure because the boys always did side work and that's the boys' thing, you know.
But you knew that he was working at that home around this time?
I don't know if it was that day, but I knew they were working on that project. Yes.
Okay. While you dated Mr. Anderson for the year, did you know him to have any sort of injuries?
Yeah.
Like
I think
what
she's
type
had a
of
hard
injuries are you
lifetime.
talking about?
Like any sort of things that would prohibit him from moving around freely, any back problems, leg problems, anything of that
Yes,
sort?
He has back problems.
Okay, can you explain what you know of those back problems?
Sometimes he just can't move. He either has to lay there or he has to stand up and just keep doing stuff. It's serious pain enough to where you hold your back and you can't move.
Okay, and did you ever see him when he would have these moments of back pain?
Yes.
Objection irrelevant. Whether she's seen other moments unrelated to this time period is irrelevant.
Overruled.
And how frequent did this happen?
Same objection.
Overruled.
How frequently did Mr. Anderson experience back pain and issues?
It was daily. Sometimes it was worse. Sometimes some days were better.
And do you remember if there was anything that would cause him to have back pain?
Heavy lifting that he would end up doing.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was it hard for Mr. Anderson to do heavy lifting because of his back issues?
Yes.
So you had gone over to Mr. Anderson's house from May 18th and on May 18th and May 19th?
May 18th to May 19th, you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you were there, Mr. Anderson, was he with you?
Yes.
And you never saw Mr. Anderson with bloody clothes, correct?
No.
And did you ever see him getting rid of what appeared to be some sort of evidence?
No.
Was it just a normal weekend and day was for you? Like how he was acting and what you guys were doing?
What is-
Objection. Council Monday would be the 8th, would be Monday, 18th and 19th.
Okay, so when you, I apologize, sometimes us lawyers get our days mixed up too. When you were together on Monday and
Just
Tuesday,
noise.
what were you guys doing?
That's what we normally do. We sit around and talk and just enjoy each other's time. We eat. I would cook breakfast.
Okay, so there's nothing out of the,
Nothing out of the ordinary at all.
okay. And
All right.
on the 19th, so that would have been the Tuesday when you were there, the day Mr. Anderson got arrested. Do you remember people coming to the house?
I don't get this. Bloody. Put it back to normal. Let's refresh it again and see if that makes any
So
difference.
there's nothing out of the,
Nothing out of the ordinary at all.
okay. And
Mm.
on the 19th, so that would have been the Tuesday when you were there, they wanted to get into information that is charged information in an open case.
Oh, they're arguing
That's
again.
not relevant to the charges here,
Half
but
this
they
trial
wanted
is
to use
them
it
arguing.
for some purpose, then that motion should have been brought.
Hundreds.
Back
No.
on the time period of May 19th, 2020,
Oh,
were you
Christ.
dispatched to a location at 3709 15th Street, Apartment 1B?
Yes, I was called in by the Detective Bureau.
And that's not your shift, right?
No.
Okay. And so what
Oh.
what time do you believe you arrived there?
I think it was noon, something like that, noon.
And again, were you called in off shift
Wow.
because of your experience and capacity as
Yeah.
an evidence collection tech?
Yes.
Okay.
I could have said
While you
Judge,
were at that
sure.
scene, did you observe things that caused you enough concern that you felt, okay, I do have a role here and I am going to be collecting some evidence?
yeah,
Yes.
I do.
So in general wide terms, if you don't have to be specific to all the different areas, but in general wide terms, what was the situation you saw at Apartment 1B when you got there?
There's a significant amount of blood evidence inside the apartment.
And was that located in one isolated area or was it in several locations?
Several locations within the apartment.
Now, was there anyone else there at that apartment who was also involved in evidence collection with you?
Yes.
And who was that?
Officer Van Wee.
And did you divide up duties in some fashion that the jury should be aware of?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the division of labor?
He was documenting the blood stains and I was collecting samples of the blood, possible blood stains.
And so pursuant to that, are you the individual who then specifically took samples of the blood stains you felt were at least of immediate relevance?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you have any estimate at the number of individual like droplets or
Are you for
specks
real?
or however, how do you want to describe, what's the terminology
Did you
would use
count
for
the
each
drips?
individual's place of blood evidence?
I would say blood spatter or blood droplets is pretty much what we're finding.
All right. Did you take account of all the blood droplets? In other words, did you take a total number?
No.
Are you for
Okay.
real?
Would that number have been possibly in the thousands? Had
Yeah.
you, yes?
Yes,
Okay.
easily.
At this scene?
Yes.
Okay. And so as an evidence tech with the experience that you've described since 2002, how do you make a decision about
No,
which
me
of
either.
those thousands of possible samples to then take a sample to then take more evidence from, other than just photos or observation?
Well, it depends on what I'm looking at. So I divvy up into different walls or different sections of the carpet or the flooring And then I would take different samples of that.
And are you making a decision believing that you would ever collect all thousands of those samples individually?
No, we would never collect that many.
Okay. And why are you collecting these? So like, and I'm not saying you know all the details, but you're collecting them for what to happen next in general?
In general, we'll collect them and then we'll send them to the crime lab, state of Wisconsin crime lab, where they'll analyze it.
So you yourself don't do any testing of them?
No.
Okay. Now, mechanically, is there a different process for if you're just trying to collect DNA than if you're trying to specifically collect something where you suspect it's blood? So in other words, if you see no blood, are you doing anything differently than if it's something where you say, I have a opinion that's blood?
DNA, you mean touch DNA?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we would do a different process.
Okay, so first tell me on touch DNA, if you see that, you would only do that, I assume, if you see no obvious evidence of blood. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Just very briefly, layman's terms, what does that process look like? What are you doing?
Well, as a door handle, we'll say, as an example, with no blood on it, I know the suspect may have touched it. I want to collect the DNA
yeah,
samples
absolutely. I
from his
understand.
molecules that are on the skin
Just
samples that are on the doorknob. So I'll
excessive.
take 2 swabs, sterile water, and I'll wet one of the swab tips. Then I'll wipe it around the handle to try and collect that DNA off the handle. And then it's still a little bit damp from the swab. Then I'll take the dry swab and I'll wipe that. It's called a wet dry method. And then I'll package them for processing.
And on this particular scene, you had no idea if anyone who had touched a door or any other surface was wearing gloves. Is that correct? You don't know that in this scene, do you?
I have no idea.
Okay. Is the method you just described, the touch DNA method, would you expect in your training and experience that would have any results that would be have any results if a person was wearing gloves of some kind when they touch the surface?
Most likely it wouldn't pick up his DNA if he had gloves on.
Okay. So you mentioned how you do touch DNA. So what do you do if you see a surface where you think, I think there's a good chance or some chance there's blood there? What's different about your process?
And then the judge gets his book out and and describes why he's making that decision and does a 10-minute explanation. Objection. Overruled. Leading. But it's cross. I'm allowed to leave, Judge. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
So, same kind of swab. It's a sterile swab. We open it up, and if it's blood and it's wet blood, we just dip it into the blood, let it soak up the end of the swab, and then we package that.
So if it's still damp blood versus dry blood, is there a different method or is it exactly the same method?
It's a different method. For that method, we'd have to use the sterile water again and damp the tip of the swab, and then work it inside the stain that I'm trying to collect, and eventually we'll collect it. It'll get it wet enough, it'll collect onto the end of the swab.
So were there a number of surfaces where you sought to collect what might be blood evidence at this scene that we've spoken about thus far?
Yes.
And would you characterize them all as either wet or dry, or did it differ depending on what surface you were looking at?
It was different depending on where I was inside the apartment.
Okay. And so your method would have altered in that slight way you mentioned. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you attempt to take samples from the locations you felt were important in terms of making determinations about what might have happened at the scene?
Yes.
Did you prioritize those things you felt were most important?
Yeah, systematically we went through and determined what we needed to collect.
So, and did you then ultimately document what items that you yourself took swabs from?
Yes.
So, Is one of the places you took a swab from the top of the dinette table?
Yes,
And in general, do you remember where that was located in the residence in general?
yes, it's next to the kitchen by the hallway leading to the bathroom and the bedroom.
No, just,
So I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 78. Good news, we're not opening any of these, okay? I'm just going to show you from the
Oh.
labels and from this whether you can talk about it, okay? So Exhibit 78, I'm going to show that to you briefly and ask you if, based on the documentation on there, you can see that that is from the dinette table and is something you yourself collected.
Yes, this is my seal, my initials and date on it, and also the label that we put on it. This is something I collected.
Okay, and it's the apartment we talked about, and it's in that process we talked about, correct?
Correct.
Was that a place where you believe there was blood, or at least a high possibility of blood?
There appear to be blood stains on top of the table, yes.
And that's what you were focused on, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you also collect in the center of the living room in a large blood-stained saturated carpet? Did
Yes.
you also collect there?
Yes.
All right, and then, so I'm going to show you exhibit number 79, counsel, and ask you if that is, if 79 is again something you can confirm for the jury, is a place where you did the same swabbing process you talked about, and then documented and stored.
Yes, this is, again, my initials, my date on it, and also the sticker I put on it, labeling it as a saturated blood area.
And in general, can you orient us where that was? So where is this large blood stain at the center of the living room?
There's a large amount of blood and the carpet, the main carpet of the living room between the TV and the sofa.
Then I'm going to now show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 82, asking, were there multiple locations on the living room ceiling that you took swabs?
Yes.
And why did you not just take one location in the living room ceiling? Why did you, in fact, if I count correctly, why did you take 5 locations in the living room ceiling at different spots?
The ceiling had blood stains on it, and it looked like it was from different events or different times it was put up on the ceiling based on the directionality that we were looking at with the blood stain. So I tried to take samples of each of the events that we noticed.
When you say event, is that some object striking blood causing it to fly? Is that what you're speaking about by an event?
Yes, the way it was put up onto the ceiling, possibly without knowing what actually happened during this event, it appeared to be either cast off or forcible blood being put onto that surface.
Okay, so at the 5 separate locations that are living room ceilings, you felt it was different than the other 4 in each one of those, and so significant to put it into to look at that space. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so as again back to Exhibit 82 then.
Right. He's got a whole stack of envelopes there that he's bringing into evidence. And he's going to go through every one of them and say, is that your signature?
Yes, this is one of the
Yes,
swabs that we
yes,
took
bring it
from the
in.
ceiling.
Yes, that's another swab.
With my
Yes.
initials and date on it.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Correct.
okay, and that's an item that could have,
All right, this is cross.
there were also 2,
Come on. All right.
No.
showing it to you on my computer.
Okay.
You can mess around with it as you need.
What are we talking?
Link you to right here.
Nope.
Okay. Yep.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, so had Ms. Patterson admitted to you that she touched the cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. But she touched it, but you still swabbed the cell phone, right? For
Correct.
touch DNA.
Correct.
So someone touching something doesn't preclude you from still swabbing for touch DNA.
Again, it's argumentative based on my current understanding of the objection. Argumentative.
You've been an evidence tech for many years, correct?
Correct.
In your training, you're not precluded from swabbing for touch DNA because more than one individual might have touched an item, correct?
Depends on the surface area and what they were touching and how they were touching it.
But just in general, doesn't preclude you.
Irrelevant whether his training actually precludes him from testing an item after it's been touched prior for touch DNA.
This witness is, if I may, this witness's prior reasoning as to why he didn't swab a certain
The objection is over.
preclude you. Generally, you had the cell phone, which I'm going just back to where I was in the beginning, given the officer's answers.
Well, that would fit right into the objection that it's asked and answered.
Could have taken a swab for touch DNA as well, correct?
Objection. It's been asked and answered. She's already asked him, could he have done it? He said he did not. And then he could have. He's
He
already.
didn't say, he said no, of the door handle of the
Argue about it than it is to get the examination. Can you answer the question? Do you want to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
He
That even
didn't
though
know
someone
what
else
it
had
was
touched
after all that bullshit.
the freezer handle, you can still swab for touch DNA. Or you could have swabbed for touch DNA.
I could have, yes.
Just like the exterior door handle of the main door, it's more likely that more than one person touched that door handle, correct?
Okay, yes, I guess.
And you still swabbed that one.
Yes,
Okay, and the patio door, the exterior and interior, it's possible that more than one person touched those door handles, but you still swabbed that, correct?
yes,
So back to those credit cards. You could have swabbed those, but you didn't, correct?
I did not because they're inside the holder still.
Okay, and the holder, you still chose not to test that.
I did not.
And those are all things that the suspect could have touched, correct?
Could have, yes.
And so now, about what time did you respond to the scene back on May 19th, 2020?
My report has it in there. I think it was noon or 12:30. I got notified of it.
So earlier on in the investigation then?
Correct.
And you were aware that, or were you aware that when law enforcement entered in, the lights had all been turned off?
I was not aware of that.
Okay, did you take a video or was that another officer? A crime scene video?
I don't remember.
Okay. In your experience, if you knew that upon entry, every single light switch had been turned off and this bloodshed event had allegedly occurred, would you want to swab the light switches?
If there's evidence that there's blood on those light switches that I wanted to collect, then I would. Or if I had any indicators that the lights were turned off by maybe a suspect or the victim, then yes, I would have done that.
Okay, and to your understanding, there were no touch DNA swabs taken by you of the light switches in that apartment, correct?
No, I did not.
Did you
50
take
different
any
DNA
touch
samples on
DNA
that.
swabs of any kitchen or bathroom faucets?
No,
Did you take a touch DNA swab of
Toilet seat.
well, strike that. Were you aware of a door mat that had been moved in the apartment?
yes,
Did you swab that for touch DNA?
No.
And it's possible the suspect had moved that, correct?
I'd have to look at the photographs, but I think there's blood evidence on that.
And there was blood evidence behind the shoe mat, correct?
I can't remember. I know there's blood evidence somewhere around there.
Okay. And then the couch had been moved as well, correct?
The couch?
Yeah.
I don't remember the couch. I remember the dining room table has been moved.
Okay. Well, we'll go back to the couch. We'll stick with the dining room table. The swabs that you mentioned that were from the dining room table, that was exhibit
Yeah.
78. Those
No,
were
she's being petty.
swabs taken of what appeared to be blood, correct?
Hmm.
You didn't take any touch DNA swabs from the kitchenette table, correct?
No,
But you knew that
She's
table had been
asking
moved.
about touch DNA, so it's not even like they've swabbed for blood, but they're not touch DNA. Like they're not looking for skin cells. You can't see them. You're not going to swab the whole fucking house because you're going to come up with millions of touch DNA. For Christ's sake.
Moved, right?
it has been recently moved, yes.
Potentially by the suspect.
Could have been from anyone. I don't,
It could have been from the suspect too, correct?
could have been, yes.
Okay. The chairs to the dinette table had also been moved, correct?
Correct.
Possibly by the suspect, correct?
My God.
You
Look,
didn't swab
everything's
the
been
chairs
touched
for
by
touch
the
DNA.
suspect.
No, I did not.
There were also two small
Okay.
white tables.
Boo-boo.
Okay, and that's an item that could have been touched by the suspect, but that you didn't process for touch DNA.
I did not process it.
You're going to go through every goddamn thing in every room.
133.
She bloody is. Look at her. Look at how many photos she's got there. Did you swab this? No. Did you swab this? No.
before I'd asked you about some white tables. Does this refresh your recollection as to where those were?
Yes,
Okay. And you'd agree there are several items on the table?
yes.
Have any
There's
of
so many of
them?
them.
They seem to be in an exact location as if they haven't been moved, correct?
Oh, did
I
you
couldn't
swap
hear you,
them?
Council.
I can't testify to that. I don't,
So they're nicely placed items, you'd agree?
nicely, I don't understand what you mean. They're placed on
They're
there.
placed on there, they're not on the floor, correct?
No, they're not on the floor.
Okay. They're items that could have been on the floor at one point.
Oh
There's
my
also
God.
speculation whether they were ever on the floor at some point.
Fuck off, woman. Give me the shit.
I can lay a better foundation. Thank
Oh,
you.
you
I will do
can
that.
lay whoever you like, but
You're an
they're going to be
evidence
bored as
tech, right?
batshit. Let me give you the tip.
Not interrogation, cross-examination of this sort. And of course it is for purposes of the state making an argument later. Yes, that is the
We're allowed to present any defense.
Oh,
Another law. Do you solemnly swear the testimony that you are about to give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Please be seated.
Ms. Treppinger, can you state your first and last name and spell both those names for the record?
Lisa Trevinger.
this is the DNA analysis analyst, I think.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Milwaukee.
Told ya.
And how long have you been so employed?
I've been at the state lab for over 25 years.
Can you indicate what the state crime lab does?
They receive evidence from outside agencies and they do testing upon the evidence, write reports on the results, and provide testimony in court.
And when you first began your employment at the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, well, I guess let me ask you this. Are you the primary agency that does the work you just described in the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, we have 3 labs.
So when you first began your employment at the State Crime Lab, what was your job there?
When I first started, I was in the DNA data bank.
And what does that mean?
I worked on samples that came in to be put in the known convicted database.
And mechanically, does that mean you operated a machine when you got a sample, or were you a data intake person? What were you mechanically doing in that particular job?
Well, back then we didn't have any automated systems, so I was doing it all by hand.
Okay, and the data bank you're speaking about, that's a collection of DNA results from individuals for various reasons in the state of Wisconsin?
Correct. It's known individuals and then casework samples and quality assurance samples.
And how long did you have that particular job at the crime lab?
I did that for about 3 years.
And so what date are we at now in terms of 3 years in?
We're about 2000.
Okay, in the year 2000, did you continue your work with the state crime lab?
Yes, I did.
What did you do then?
And then I became a forensic scientist in the DNA database and the DNA unit.
Okay, and what is a forensic scientist within the state crime lab?
So in this case, I worked in the DNA section and I worked on evidence that was brought into the section, to do testing on it, write reports, make comparisons, testify in court.
And how long did you do that particular job? So in other words, where your primary job was, is an accurate way to call that job a DNA analyst?
Yes.
Okay, so as a DNA analyst, how long was that your primary job?
From 2000 to about 2022.
Before we go any further, so wait, 2000 to 2022, 22 years?
Yes.
Okay. Before we go any further, what type of education did you receive to be employed at the state crime lab, particularly as a forensic scientist or DNA analyst?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Mount Mary College. I majored in biology and I minored in history. I have coursework in molecular biology, biochemistry, genetics, and statistics.
Before you become a DNA analyst, after having received that education,
Yes,
is there a training or
very
apprenticeship
thorough,
type
and we
period
will
that you
deem
also
her an
consider,
expert
or
in her
is that
field.
before
Yeah?
your period?
I work.
Let me just ask you, in 2020, did you have occasion in the capacity with your work as a DNA analyst to be involved in a case where you were attempting to assist the Kenosha Police Department in analyzing evidence where the case name for your lab was Rosario Gutierrez Jr.?
Yes, I did.
And were you the primary analyst during the year 2020 and 2021 as any evidence came into the crime lab on that case?
Yes, for DNA, I was a primary.
Okay. Would that be the way the lab usually works, where they would assign one person, there'd be a primary for as long as that person continued in that particular employment?
Yes, they may have people assist them, but there's usually a primary one person that writes the report in the lab.
And at some point during those 2 years then, did you get a variety of evidence at times, and were you asked to do a DNA analysis of that evidence?
Yes, I was.
And before I go further,
Hey,
during that,
NF, did True Crime Metrics do this trial? Did they cover this trial at all? Because I wouldn't wonder what wonder what did he believe in Zachariah's innocence if he did, or did he think he was guilty? Are you still there, Mr. Udahev? Oh, look, she's a hottie. She's got pretty hair. I forget other people have a life outside of me. Oh, he hasn't. Okay. Right. I wouldn't have minded having someone like opposing thought processes. Do you know what I mean? Like okay. Just what are you doing next Saturday? I'm trying to think of a non-biased panel. Because it's not fair that I put on two people that believe in his innocence. It should be a fair discussion, and equal.
that period of time, 2020 and 2021, what was in place in the crime lab to try to assist you in making sure that whatever your conclusions were in terms of science were accurate?
Our lab is accredited. We have standard operating procedures that we follow.
And so what are the standard operating procedures that you can think of that, again, ensure accuracy in the results when you are the analyst during that period?
So during that time, we have a standard operating procedure manual that we follow. Part of that is once we complete our analysis and write our report, another analyst goes through your report and your findings and makes sure that you follow the procedure and that analyst would come up with the same results and conclusions that you have.
And what is that process called? Or is there a phrase that describes that process that is a requirement of the crime lab?
Yes, all our cases go through a pure technical review.
And again, if I understand, that's a second analyst checking your work, making sure they have the same result.
That's correct.
Now, mechanically, when you take in evidence and you're testing for DNA, can you describe for the jury what mechanically you do? Are you in a lab? Is it a machine you're working? What are you doing that causes you to get a result?
I just called the lab because
So you receive the evidence and it's packaged. So then you take notes on what you receive and what you see. You may go through some screening tests. Then you go through an extraction of what you get. You do a quantitation of how much sample that you have. You amplify it, like making Xerox copies of what you have. Then you run it through an analyzer, and then you get the data. You take that data and you compare that to any standards that you may have, and then you write the report. And then it goes through the peer review. It goes through an administrative review, and it goes out to the agencies.
And Ms. Treffinger, in the case of 2020, 2021, is that the exact process that you utilized in processing any evidence from Kenosha indicating Rosario Gutierrez Jr.?
Yes, that was my process.
Since 2022, have you changed jobs within the state crime lab?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and so what is the job? What was the next job you took on?
The next job, I became a specialist in the crime scene response unit.
And how long did you do that?
I did that for about a year.
Okay, and so now, are you still employed at the crime lab?
Yes, I am.
And so what do you do for the lab now?
Now, in January, I took a position in the quality assurance program as a specialist.
Okay, and so at this moment, are you still doing any DNA analysis?
No, I'm not. I do not work on the bench at this point.
That's what you call it, the bench?
The bench.
Okay, and at this moment, do you have a job where you go to crime scene response specialist?
No, I do not go to crime scenes anymore.
Okay. When you were a crime scene response specialist, was one of your duties to be sent around the state to crime scenes?
Yes, it was.
Have you in fact come to Kenosha in that capacity in the year 2022 on occasion?
Yes, I have.
And before you took on that job of a crime scene response specialist, did you also go to crime scenes or assist in working crime scenes while you were a DNA analyst on many occasions?
Yes, that was one of my initial duties, and I did that for about 10 years.
So starting approximately when?
2012, 2013.
So if I understand you right, from 2012 or 13 to 2022, you were one of the people the state crime lab sent out when the state was requested to be of assistance at crime scenes.
Yes, that's correct.
And why does the state crime lab get called to assist at certain crime scenes, if you know?
We assist the agencies. Maybe smaller agencies don't have the resources or the technology that we do. Maybe larger agencies they're so spread out, they just need some help. They're looking for technical assistance in these cases.
And have you received formalized training in the processing of or the working through a crime scene as part of the duties you had for those 10 years?
Yes, I have.
And so in general, what was the formalized training you had to allow you to be qualified in some fashion to assist and work those crime scenes?
I took some online courses. I also went through our training program that we have at the lab. I attended evidence technician school that the state puts on. I also attended death investigation school that the state puts on.
The state puts on.
I've also attended different courses for bloodstain pattern analysis, for trajectory. I've attended conferences in regards to those things related to crime scene.
So, Ms. Treffinger, in terms of your arrival at crime scenes and working crime scenes from 2012 to 2022, when that was one of your duties at the crime lab, how many times would you estimate you went to some other location? There's photography that's sometimes done in those locations.
14.
And so how many of the scenes, you said approximately 100 scenes, of those
The team lead.
in 2021? How were you ranked in terms of
That came after me.
crime lab?
Correct.
Get to the crime scene,
You
please.
might be employed at the crime lab
In that time, I
Oh,
did go
my
to scenes
Lord.
and collected evidence as well.
opposed to being dependent on some other agency to collect it. In samples that somebody else has determined. And were there other people on your crime response team who you utilized or seen in Kenosha at the time that you did analysis in the case Rosario Gutierrez? So I'm now directing you to sometime around May of
Oh,
2012.
thank Christ, you got there.
How many times do you estimate that you had done DNA analysis where you were taking an item and trying to figure out if you could match it to someone's DNA sample or control sample?
Thousands of times.
And that would be thousands of times over that entire career that you have talked about.
That's correct.
Now, can you indicate briefly to the jury whether you have a working knowledge of what the source of DNA would be from a human body? In other words, what are the types of places or things on our body that might, some of the sources that you talked about?
Yes, I have seen those.
And then when you do results in the lab, are you also able sometimes to formulate an idea based on whatever available evidence there is about what the source is of those ones that you named?
Yes, we get a general idea what they are.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you if, as to any opinion you offer as to what the source of any DNA that we talk about would be, okay, and if we talk about whether you reach any conclusion that something is a match, whether you would please adopt the standard of to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. Would you do that with me?
Yes.
So if you offer an opinion, would you only offer an opinion if you feel it meets that standard to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty? Can you agree to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Rather than me ask you each time, are you reaching that opinion to a reasonable degrure of scientific
We
certainty?
get it.
Give me no opinion that does not submitted to you by other sources. So were you sent some? Let me start with toothbrushes. Let me do this first.
First, Judge, I'm going to object as far as leading from her report. I think the more efficient and better way to do it is to provide the analyst her report and ask what she received.
I'll leave it.
I'm just counting how many times he says,
Yes, I do recognize this document.
And is this a document you prepared?
Yes, it is.
Is it a true and accurate copy of the report you prepared in your capacity at the crime lab as a DNA analyst that you have testified to already today?
Yes, it is.
Does it appear to be altered or changed in any way from the document you originally prepared? other than the sticker being on?
Nope, it does not.
Okay. Judge, I move admission of the exhibit.
No objection.
What's the number on it, please?
S-39.
39. As we talk about this, does Exhibit 39 indicate some toothbrushes were sent to you?
That is correct.
And did you analyze those?
Yes, I did.
And did you and so were those something that you looked at for instance, DNA?
Yes.
Did you also analyze item G, hair collected from a sofa seat cushion?
Yes, I did.
And H, hair reportedly collected from a sofa pillow?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so let's briefly go through each item. As to the toothbrushes, C through F, what findings, if any, did you make that would be relevant to us?
There was a single source profile from item B, toothbrush.
Okay.
Item C
Yeah.
was a single source item from a toothbrush.
Okay.
Item E
So they didn't share
was a single
toothbrushes.
source profile from a toothbrush. And item F was a mixture from a toothbrush.
Okay. Does mixture mean you couldn't make a DNA analysis or a comparison?
Yes, because it is a mixture, then we don't use it for a standard.
Okay. And E1, what was your result in terms of this?
For item E1 toothbrush, the source was female.
And are you for any reason aware that Rosario Gutierrez has a daughter?
Yes, I did.
As a dog.
And were you aware she was a minor? She's a child?
Yes, I think I knew that.
Okay. As to C1, did you identify a single source male?
Yes, I did.
And without stating the name, did that come back to an individual who you believe to be a son of Rosario Gutierrez?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And again, that's a child, correct?
Correct.
And then as to D1, what was your result in terms of how many source profiles there were?
D1 was a single source profile.
Okay. And were you able ultimately, through investigative means, to determine that single source profile, what came back or was a match to a person identified to you as Rosario Gutierrez Jr.?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now I want to turn your attention to hair samples from the living room. Do you identify those as K1A, K2A, and K3A?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and those are 3 separate hair samples to your knowledge?
Yes.
This is exhibit 97. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State Exhibit 97 and ask you if that has K1A, K2A, K3A in it, based on the package.
Yes, based on the packaging, it does have K1, K2, K3 in it.
Okay, so very briefly, because I don't think the jury's heard this, can you describe why, just based on the packaging, without opening it, you have some degree of confidence that it's the right item? So what are you doing in terms of the packaging or labeling that allows you to be able to say that?
So when I receive a piece of item of evidence, I initial and date it, and I have done that on all barcodes that were placed on here. I also initial and date the seal. I also make a note the date that I open something, and I initial it as well.
And as to this exhibit, were you able to, how many sources were there in your profile, and what was the sex, if you can recall?
So from this, there was 3 hairs that I tested, and 3 hairs that I got profiles from. And all 3 hairs were single source profiles, and they were Rosario Gutierrez was the source.
Okay, so again, the same person who was on the toothbrush earlier in D1 is the source of all 3 of those hairs. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you.
Did you also take possession of and do testing on something identified to you as swab from a main doorknob, item W1 or W?
Yes, I did.
And were you able on that item to determine how many sources and whether it was a male or female?
Yes, I was.
what was your determination?
It was a single source male profile.
Does Exhibit 80, I'm sorry, I should have showed it to you. Exhibit 80 appear to be the item that we've spoken about thus far?
Yes, it does.
And what, if any, source could you identify as to this particular item? Again, a swab from the main doorknob.
It was a single source male profile, and the source was Rosario Gutierrez.
Okay. And can you tell me, was that particular swab what is called a touch DNA swab, or was that blood, if you know?
I believe this was a touch DNA swab.
Okay. And so as to that doorknob, only one person was on it, and it was Rosario Gutierrez Jr., correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then was there also a swab that was provided to you where it was labeled for you, a swab from the interior patio door handle?
Yes.
Okay. And at that for that swab, how many people did you get in the mixture? This is item X1. I apologize.
X1 was a 4-person mixture.
And so there was some traces of 4 persons' DNA in your findings. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Could you identify the sex of any of those 4?
Yes, I could.
And what was the sex you identified?
There was at least one male in the profile.
And is there something called a major contributor as well as minor contributors? Is that a thing in this business?
Yes, it is.
And what does that mean?
Major contributor is someone that stands out as to having the most DNA in the mixture.
Is that often in the touch DNA world, the person who touches something the most?
It could be. It's the person who left the most DNA there.
Okay. Sometimes the last person who touches an item?
Yes, it could be the last person.
Okay. And if a person touches a surface with gloves on, would you expect to find any results for them in a swab of the item that they touch?
Usually you don't, if someone is wearing a glove.
So were you able to get a major male contributor in this particular item X1?
Yes, I was.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 81. Again, this is a swab from the interior patio door handle. That's how it's identified to you. As to Exhibit 81, does this appear to be the same item that you are talking about based on its labeling that you tested and that you are reaching any conclusion that you are regarding?
Yes, that does.
Okay, so as to that exhibit, who is the major male contributor based on your findings?
For item X1, the major is Rosario Gutierrez.
And as to those minor profiles, you mentioned 3 other people. What can you tell us about those 3?
I can't say anything about the minor contributors. There's just not enough to make any conclusions.
Is that uncommon in the touch DNA world?
No, that's not.
Was there a sample or something for testing? And again, as to X1, that item we just talked about, was that, can you indicate what the source of DNA was? In other words, skin, semen, all those possibilities you gave, what kind of DNA is that one, if you know?
Given that it's a swab from a handle, I would say that it was touch DNA, most likely skin cells.
So now I'm going to ask you about item Y1, identified as swabs of the pool of blood. Would that be blood as the source in that particular item?
Yes, it would.
And were you able to get any result in that one at Y1?
Yes, I was.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 79. Ask you as to this item, can you tell, is this packaging consistent with the item that you have just described that you conducted testing on or analysis on for DNA?
Yes, it is.
And as to that exhibit, were you able to find out the number of sources and the sex of the individual who was any source?
It was a single source male profile.
And what, if anything, can you do in terms of results as to who that male profile is?
The source was Rosario Gutierrez.
Okay. And that's blood, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you at some point look at swabs from a cell phone, identified as item Z1?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall whether Z1 was blood or skin cells, or what the source of that particular swab was, if you recall?
I believe that was touch swab of the cell phone, so this is skin cells.
Okay. And as to that item identified as Z1, were you able to identify male or female, and how many sources?
Single source male profile.
Okay. And this is touch DNA again.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 91 and ask you as to that item, is this packaging consistent with the item you just testified that you were involved in analyzing for DNA?
Yes, it is.
And what, if any, result did you get regarding that item?
Item Z, it was a single source male profile, and the source was Rosario Gutierrez.
And again, that you believe that to be skin cells based on what you tested, correct?
That is correct.
Did you also test something identified as swabs of a stain from that same cell phone?
Yes, I did.
And was that item described by you as AA1?
Yes, it was.
And that's a crime lab number, is that correct?
Yes.
You determined that number for purposes of being able to keep these things organized, separated, et cetera?
Correct.
And as to that item, did you do testing?
Yes, I did.
And what was the source of that? Could you recognize whether that was a swab based on your ability to determine? Was it skin cells or semen, or what was it from?
In that case, the swab, we did do some screening tests on it, and we confirmed that AA was from blood.
So when would you do a screen? When you say screening test, what does that mean?
A screening test is something you can do that gives you an indication of what it is, and that's an indication, and then you can do a confirmatory test which confirms that it is blood.
So there's some chemical way to do that, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you able to do that in every single circumstance where you have blood?
No, we are not.
And so what are the limitations? Why are you sometimes able to do that kind of chemical testing and sometimes not?
It depends on the amount, the sample size. If you have a lot, you can do that. If you only have a minor amount of blood, you save it for the DNA analysis.
And when you say a lot, it's relative to your profession, right? For us, it would not be a lot or a little, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a swab with a stain on it, that's a good amount.
Okay. So in this case, you had, in your professional estimate, sufficient amount to do some additional chemical testing. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And if you don't have that amount, does that mean that a person from the crime lab would never be able to make a determination about whether something was blood, or simply do you not have one of the tools available that you would use in other occasions?
Right. We wouldn't do an analysis, so I wouldn't say confirmatory, but we would have an opinion that we would use.
So in this case, you can't use the chemicals that you would insist yourself on if you had enough of a quantity. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you as to Exhibit 90. Is this the swab from the stain of the cell phone that we just talked about?
Yes, it is.
So again, you list that as AA1.
Correct.
And what were your findings regarding that when you tested it?
A single source male profile.
And who was the source of that, if you could tell?
Rosario Gutierrez.
Now, at some point, were you asked to take a look at swabs from something identified as a tractor gear shift?
Yes, I was.
And were you able to get any profile of any of the people that were included for you to take a look at in this case?
No, I was not.
Okay, and one of the people included was a person identified as Zachariah Anderson, right?
That is correct.
So as for the tractor gear shift, the swab did not have DNA that included that person, is that right?
That is correct.
And then a swab was taken from a tractor steering wheel as well. Is that item AD1?
That is.
And again, is that one where everyone from Rosario Gutierrez to Zachariah Anderson are excluded? They're not the source of any DNA you saw on that tractor steering wheel, is that right?
That is correct.
At some point, was there a straight razor that was submitted to you?
Yes, there was.
And was Rosario Gutierrez as well as Zachariah Anderson excluded on that?
Yes, they were.
Now, were you also provided a swab from a stain from a piece of wood?
Yes, I was.
And was that identified as item A01?
That is correct.
And were you able to test that item?
Yes, I was.
And first of all, were you able to determine what that was in terms of skin cells or blood or semen or any of the others?
Yes, I was.
And how were you able to do that?
I was able to confirm that it was blood.
And how were you able to confirm that?
We do hemotrace test.
Okay. And is that one of the tests you do if you have enough of a quantity?
That's correct.
Okay. So in this case, again, you had a sufficient quantity of the blood to be able to do a sample to determine if it's blood.
That's correct.
In that situation, I'm going to show you Exhibit 98 and ask you as to the swab from the piece of wood. Is that Exhibit 98 an exhibit that is the packaging of the testing you performed?
Yes, it is.
And what was the result on the swab from the blood from the piece of wood that was handed over to you?
It was a single source male profile.
And who was the source of that, if you know?
Rosario Gutierrez.
Now, Finding from this March 29th report in a minute, but first I'd like to ask you if you recognize Exhibit 38. If so, could you tell me what that is?
Item 38 is a report that I wrote on May 7th of 2021.
And when did you perform any testing that is memorialized in that exhibit?
I'd have to look it back at my notes, but it would have been before May 7th of 2021.
And did this involve a couple of additional items that you were asked to perform an identical analysis of? In other words, looking for DNA and trying to figure out the source?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So in terms of the process or the fact that it was just submitted at a different time?
That's correct.
Okay. So was one of the items in the May 7th, let me ask you, as to that May 7th report, does it appear to be a true and accurate copy or report of your findings regarding testing a couple of items and then reporting it May 7th, 2021?
Yes, it does.
And is it changed or altered in any way other than the fact that there's a sticker on it with a number that you can see?
No, it's not.
I'd move admission of that report as an exhibit, Your Honor.
No objection.
Proceed.
So I'd like to turn your attention then to a swab from the, something called swab from the exterior door center. Do you see that listed as AR1 and AR2?
Yes, I do.
And when that came to you, that was in the form of a swab?
Yes, it was.
And can you tell me what that appeared to be sourced from? Was that hair? Was that saliva, semen, something else?
It was identified as blood.
And did you do any additional testing to determine it was blood?
Yes, I did.
And what was your finding?
That it was blood, yes.
Okay. And then as to that exhibit, were you able to make findings about who the source of that was?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I'm going to show you then what's been marked as State's Exhibit 87 and ask as to Exhibit 87 if this is familiar to you in the context of what we just talked about.
Yes, it is.
What is that?
Item AR.
And so that is, again, the item that is described as swabs from the exterior door center.
That is correct.
And what, if any, finding were you able to make as to AR?
AR was a single source male profile.
And who was that?
That was from Rosario Gutierrez.
Same person as the other matches that we talked about in your earlier report?
That is correct.
Then did you also take swabs from the exterior door frame?
Yes, I was able to work swabs from the exterior door frame.
And what was the source of those items, if you recall?
It was a single source male profile.
And do you know what the source or type of transmitter of DNA that was? Was that semen, saliva, those other things?
And it was blood as well.
How do you know that?
I did a confirmatory test on that.
So again, for both of these, you had a sufficient amount of the substance to be able to do a chemical testing as to help form an opinion, correct?
That is correct.
As to AS1 and AS2 swabs from exterior door frame, were you able to make findings in terms of whether there was a person who you could identify as a source?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I'm going to show you Exhibit 85, which again are the swabs from that exterior door frame. As to Exhibit 85, do you recognize what that is in terms of packaging based on what you testified to just moments ago?
Yes, I have.
And so is that, in fact, the same AS that you just talked about, swabs submitted to you from the exterior door frame for the labeling?
Yes, it is.
What is your finding in terms of the result of your testing regarding who the source is of the blood on that item?
Rosario Gutierrez is the source.
As to your May 7th report, do you recall who requested that those additional items be sent to the crime lab? If you do.
No, I don't recall.
Okay. Then I want to return back to the time period of around May of 2020 and ask you if there was a time when you were involved in some work on a vehicle that was transported to the crime lab.
Yes, I did look at a vehicle.
And do you recall when you were involved in looking physically at that vehicle and making any findings that you had?
I went out to the garage, I believe it was on May 21st.
May 21st of 2020?
That's correct.
And when you say the garage, what are you talking about?
So at our laboratory, we have 3 bays that we refer to as the garage, where we're able to work on vehicles.
And that it would be the standard place you would try to analyze a vehicle?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
enclosed?
It's enclosed, yes.
And why would you care if you worked in an enclosed space as opposed to out in the open?
Well, we want it to be secured. We want to try to control it. We don't want it to be affected by the elements of the weather, sunlight, rain, things like that.
So let me ask you that. Does rain impact an ability to find DNA evidence or blood evidence if rain impacts any surface where there otherwise might be blood?
So the rain could potentially wash it away or dilute the blood.
So you don't want a vehicle you're going to work on, even if you're just going to work on the interior, you don't want any part of it to be exposed to the rain because you're worried that'll compromise an ability to look at DNA?
Yes, you would prefer it to be protected and secured.
So at the point that in May, when you were looking at this in the garage, were you being assisted by anybody else?
At that point, I was actually assisting someone else. That analyst was assigned to process the vehicle.
And so when you said you were assigned to process the vehicle, what's that person supposed to physically be doing in that role at the crime lab at that time?
So that analyst is looking over the vehicle. They're taking notes, they're taking photographs of it, they're documenting. They're doing screening tests, they're collecting any evidence that they deem as probative.
And did that take place? Were you present for what you believe to be the overwhelming majority of that process that was going on with this other analyst?
I was kind of in and out. Whenever she asked me to look at something, I would go there. I didn't stand with her the whole time, no.
So you were sort of a consultant?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And what about any photography that occurred in that process? Who was in charge of that?
I did not do any photography. She may have, or another analyst at the lab may have done the photography.
So I'm going to show you, first of all, what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1, photo 311.
He looks as excited as I do. Do you blame me?
Again, this is Exhibit 1, photo 311. Looking at that, do you recognize the interior of some kind of structure that it seems like the vehicle is in?
Some kind of structure.
Yes, I do.
Okay, what's the
What
building
do you
we're in or
deduce
structure
from
we're
your
in?
human
We're in the
experience?
garage at the lab, it's the center bay.
Okay. And is this in fact a photograph of what the scene looked like when you were being brought in as a consultant on this case?
Yes, it was.
Is this the van that you were involved in reporting in the first crime lab report we talked about March 29th, 2021?
Right.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's identified as a Dodge Caravan in
sorry.
your report. Is that what you believe it to be?
Yes.
Okay. And is the condition of the Dodge?
Can you send me your like your Discord name, and I'll go into the server and send you an invitation from there. Like, just type in what your Discord username is, and I'll try and find you and get you in that way. 'Cause I don't know how to change the link. I know that the first link that I had, they apparently issue like a temporary link that changes. And so I got Tanya's son to change it to a permanent link so it doesn't change. And it's still not working. So I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know how to work it. I really need to get it set up properly because it's such a good place. Like, once you finish streaming and if you want to continue chatting with each other, you can jump on there for nothing and chat away. You can do videos and video nights and movies and voice chats, the whole lot. It's awesome. If you have it working, apparently. But it's a bit it's way above my pay grade. But I am working on it, trust me. So yeah, if you send me your username, and Cindy, have you got My email address, I'll put it in chat and you can email it to me. How's that? And then I'll have your emails.
Dodge Caravan, as you see it in this picture, the way you saw it in this consultation. In other words, with the carpet out of it, doors open, those kind of things.
Yes, yes, it was.
Okay, and it wasn't your job to, with a fine-tooth comb, look at every area, right? You were just being brought in on occasion.
That is correct.
Okay, and so when you were being brought in, at some point, were you consulted about an item that was on the driver's side, which you ultimately identified as A2, a swab with a stain? I'm talking about now the driver's side.
Yes, I think that we did discuss that. Yes.
Okay, and what do you recall being the thing you were being asked to consult on as to A2? And if I gave you a pointer, would you be able to give me an approximate location of A2 on this, or not really?
Not really.
Okay, was it in the back section of this van?
Yeah, it was in the back section. It was in the cargo area.
Okay, so without knowing exactly where, what was it you were being asked to consult on A2?
If it had the right coloring, would it be potential to be a stain? Should it be collected?
Okay, and was there a chemical compound being utilized to do some assistance in detecting whether there was anything of evidentiary value as part of the process that you were being consulted on?
Yes, the analyst was doing some luminol, and I'm not sure if she had done this before or after, but luminol is what she was going to do or had done.
And was there a result regarding luminol on A2 that at least caused you, the two of you, to feel like a consultation was appropriate?
I can't remember if the luminol was done on that one or if it was just more a color that we saw and we collected.
Okay, in general, what is luminol?
So luminol is a liquid that's sprayed over surfaces, and it gives you an indication if there is blood, but it also reacts with other things as well.
Like cleaning agents?
Yes, like cleaning agents, rust.
And so you don't recall if there was some indicating using luminol that would cause you two to want to discuss this? That's not, you don't remember one way or another?
Yeah, I did. So I did perform the luminol, and I did write the report on it.
Okay. Who were you discussing, just so the jury knows if that person shows up later?
That would be Julie Avila. She's a specialist in the crime scene response unit.
Okay, so she had a job that was making interpretations at crime scenes, much like you did in terms of helping determine what might be of evidentiary value.
Correct. She is also a team lead. Yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you guys take a swab of a stain or an item in that back, in that rear cargo portion, based on the consultation we've spoken about?
Referring to on the driver's side?
A2, yes.
Yes, there was a swab that was collected and that I did work.
And what was the determination of that?
So A2, again, there was not blood detected on that.
Okay. And so that wasn't blood at all?
No.
Okay. And was there anything about that when you observed it where you said to yourself, oh, that's
no blood in the car?
Did you have that opinion at the time?
No, I think what I recall is saying it has possibilities. You should probably be collected and we'll try to see what we can get.
Okay. And you found it wasn't blood?
No, it was not.
All right. Then was there another place that you talked about, identified as A1?
Yes, there was.
Okay, so I'm now going to show you, again, from Exhibit 1, photo 313. And is there a sticker there that
No worries,
was only there because the state crime lab decided to place it there to mark something that they thought was of interest?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask that the judge give you a pointer and the microphone. Old school pointer, Ms. Treffinger.
So, okay, let me just recap this. There's a crime scene with an exorbitant amount of blood and hair fibers and all sorts. And a victim that's apparently been wrapped up in a rug, then covered with garbage bags and tape, and then carried and apparently put into the back of this vehicle, and not one speck of blood has been found from the victim in the car, and not one bit of DNA evidence from the defendant is anywhere in the crime scene. Have I got that right? How could you transport that and not even have a tiny bit of blood on you anywhere to close the door, to open the door, the back, the hatch? Nothing down the stairs, no footprints, no droplets of blood outside. Hmm. Oh, did you manage to get it? Did you manage to get onto my Discord channel, or you've just made your own? Because apparently my link's not working.
So if you could just point out where the sticker is that is of interest, so the jury can be oriented as to where we're talking about.
If you can see it, it's like right there.
Okay, so really all you can tell in this picture is a sticker showing you a location, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, but you recall that being the location that was of
sweet.
interest?
Yes, that was the location.
How did you find it?
And
How did you get on there? Did you just type in my username, or? All right, I'll check it out.
do you remember how you came to be consulted on that particular item? Again, only if you remember the specifics.
Yes, so Alice Avila asked me to come to the garage. She said, I saw something.
Is that on? If it is, you need it a little closer to your, okay.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Alice Avila called me out to the garage, asked me to look at this. She said, I saw it. It's about at my eye height. I'm a bit taller than she is. That's why I remember it. And I looked at it and I said, yeah, that's the right coloring. I think we need to collect that on one swab.
And were you concerned about the quantity in terms of decisions you made at that time?
Yes, it was a very tiny speck, like a pinhead dot of a dark stain.
And so now I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 1, Photo 314. Are we a little closer in on this picture?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and again, can you just point for the jury? You probably still can't, probably still not quite big enough to see, but is it under that little sticker?
Yeah, it's like right about there.
Okay, at that point,
Type in this
was
one,
the decision
too.
made? You said
This
it
one's
should
a
be
good one.
collected, correct?
Yes, that's
Was
right.
luminol
I'll
put
pull
on
it
it?
up in a second.
No,
Why not?
no, I didn't. I said do not luminol this because it's a spray, it's a liquid. It will dilute it, and you want to collect everything that's possible that's there.
And now I'm going to show you Exhibit 1, and this is number 315. Is that a picture where you can actually now, at this illumination or increase of size, I'm not coming up with the word, at this
all of
size,
the
are you
spot
able to
everywhere,
now see the speck visible in this exhibit?
So yeah, the previous photographs have been called overalls. This would be what we would call close-up. And at this close-up photography, you can see the stain right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did say 315. Are you able to see any characteristics of it once you get it enhanced in terms of its size?
Yeah, you can kind of tell that it's a reddish brown stain on that photograph.
Okay. And is there a shape or anything else to it that was of any significance to you at any point?
It was more like it was a shape that maybe round, circular, more like something that you see that would be like a splash or a spray.
So you can go back to your seat, thank you, and you can use our normal microphone. Thank you very much. Are you the person? Are you the person then who took the swab, or is Ms. Avila the person who did that?
Julie was the one that actually collected the swab, and then she packaged it up and sealed it.
Okay, and then at that point, ultimately, you've seen it in person, correct?
Correct.
You've seen it in context. You know where it's located. You know its characteristics by being able to look at it, and even enhanced, right?
Correct.
Okay, and now you are going to do an analysis of it, I assume?
That's correct.
Okay, using the usual machinery and methods as best you can, correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right, so you have told us previously on other samples that you did a chemical test for blood in multiple other samples. Do you recall that in your testimony?
Yes, I do.
Did you do that as to A1?
No, I did not.
Okay, so why? Why didn't you, if you thought this might be blood, why didn't you do it on this sample?
This sample was so small, I'm like a pinhead size. So again, I just wanted to use every amount that we had available for testing, for the genetic testing.
I'm going to go back for a second to number 311, Exhibit 1, 311. Did you, and I know you weren't the primary person, but did you overall take a look at this vehicle in terms of the back of it?
Yeah, I did. I looked around the vehicle, I looked inside the vehicle, and I looked in the back of it.
And do you see the whitish or discoloring stains that are located in some of the carpet that's above the cutoff portion of the carpet?
Yes.
And did that appear to be caused by a substance that there was an odor of in the vehicle, if you know?
I didn't smell it, but I recall analysts of you were telling me that it smelled.
Now, would you expect a person to clean a carpeting using a bleach?
I'm going to object as far as relevance.
Speculation.
She has experience with bleach and why it might be used in certain circumstances.
It's overruled.
Would you expect someone to clean something like an auto carpet with bleach?
Not really, unless they were trying to remove something.
Okay, so does bleach provide some advantage you're aware of if somebody does not want DNA to be detected in particular locations? Are you aware of the properties of bleach in your work that would make it the right item to use for cleaning a carpet if you want to make sure there's no DNA in certain locations?
I'm going to object as far as argumentative and speculation as to why someone would use bleach to clean.
There's specific properties she's aware of.
What was the foundation of that?
Respect to your question.
What if any properties are there in bleach that disguise what otherwise would be DNA at a location?
So bleach removes stains and it also destroys DNA.
It also
It also destroys DNA.
thank you.
So you're aware of other items people use to clean carpets, right? That are not bleach.
That is correct, yes.
And are those items that also destroy DNA, or is bleach the particular agent that destroys DNA?
They may destroy DNA, but in our laboratory, what we use to clean down, to get rid of DNA, so we don't have contamination, is a 20% solution of bleach and water to wipe down our benches and our equipment.
So this is the item of choice of the crime lab to remove DNA. Is that right?
It is, unless some of the instrumentations, bleach does corrode, so that we don't use it on our instruments. But yes, on our bench tops, most definitely.
Okay, so you didn't do the chemical testing of A1 because you didn't have enough.
That's correct,
All right.
yes.
But did you do DNA testing to find out if it was going to be one of those sources of DNA you talked about, hair, semen, saliva, all those things?
Yes, I ran through the typical process that I run all the other items through, yes.
Just like all the other items we talked about in this case.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and as to A1, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 109, here, yeah, 109, and ask you if, based on the packaging, you are able to tell that this is in fact the item that you did DNA testing on in regards to that item that we've shown you.
Yes, it is.
And what, if any, result did you get for A1 in terms of a DNA profile?
It was a single source male profile.
And whose DNA was that a match for, if any? What person was it a match for?
Rosario Gutierrez.
Now, you don't know whose minivan this is, correct? At any given time.
Yeah, I didn't take the van in. It was not
So
my primary.
the DNA found in the door of the minivan was the victim's. Let me just go back.
So I don't think I looked at any of the paperwork.
Know whose minivan this is a match for, if any? A1 in terms of a DNA profile.
It was a single source male profile.
And whose DNA was that a match for, if any? What person was it a match for?
Rosario Gutierrez.
Now, you don't know whose minivan this is, correct? At any given time.
Yeah, I didn't take the van in. It was not my primary duty. So I don't think I looked at any of the paperwork. No.
And you as an analyst are not focused on any particular suspect. You have no one in mind to figure out, who's who in terms of the DNA determinations, do you?
No.
Now, are you able to give this jury an opinion as to whether the substance you tested for DNA in the stain or the pinhead you mentioned whether that, are you able to form
I
an
don't
opinion as to what the source of DNA is? In other words, when we talk about semen, skin, all those things, do you have an opinion for the jury
Okay, Stephen.
regarding
Okay,
which
Stephen.
of the
No,
various
okay, Stephen.
sources that
No,
DNA comes from?
No,
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what is your opinion as to what the
okay,
source
Stephen.
of the DNA A1 is?
Based on my education, training, and experience, given the color and the way that the stain looked, I would say that it would be blood.
And are you able to indicate that? You're able to indicate that by appearance. Is there something about the results that you had that also
Yeah.
allows you to assist in that conclusion?
Yes, the type of genetic testing we do and the locations that we look at are human specific.
So this is human. This is the DNA of that is human DNA, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So let's do this. So are you able to do essentially a process of elimination as part of your analysis?
Yes, that's part of our analysis.
Okay. Did this, based on your conclusions and the results, was this human hair?
No, it was not.
Was it saliva?
No, it was not.
Was it semen?
No.
Was it
Not that.
skin cells that were simply skin cells without being another source?
You know, there may have been skin cells, but I couldn't say that for sure because you really can't see that. So I would say probably not skin cells.
So your opinion, to a reasonable degree of
Probably.
scientific certainty, is that this is the blood of Rosario Gutierrez. Is that fair?
Are you a scientist or not? And you answer probably not. But it looked like blood. So it must have been. Not really a fan of your credibility, lady. Just quietly.
Yes, that is fair.
So are you familiar with an email that you sent to a person named Angelina Gabrielle back in the time period of December 4th, 2020?
Yes, I am.
And did you, in answer to a question in that email, say we could not confirm it was blood in regards to this sample A1?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so how do you reconcile that email with what you're testifying today about? How do you explain that you sent an email that said those words, but this is your testimony and conclusion as we speak?
She had asked me very specifically, can you confirm that it's blood? No, I cannot. I did no testing to determine that it was blood.
That's what I mean.
That's my opinion.
And so now here expressing an opinion that wasn't contained in the email, wasn't asked for.
That's correct.
So in your experience as a crime scene investigator, have you had to, on many occasions, make decisions about what items will be taken from a scene to do further testing on?
Yeah, that's what we do at the scene. We look for the best evidence, the most probative evidence will have the most value to be tested.
And is that, in fact, that's one of the primary jobs of you as a crime scene investigator when you're there from the crime lab, figuring out what you're going to take back to the crime lab and do more about, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so how many times have you been to scenes where the blood evidence would literally have thousands of different droplets across an area? How many times would you say you've been in such a scene?
A good majority of them, most of them.
Okay. And have you ever on any of those occasions taken samples from thousands of different locations?
I guess I'm going to object to this line of questioning. First, as far as relevancy, I have not been given a report from this witness as to any sort of opinions of evidence collection in this case or any sort of opinions at all, nor was I provided a notice of exposition testimony. And additionally, all these questions have been leading thus far.
Well, I can't deal with thus far because there wasn't never any objection. So I won't rule on that. The remainder is oral.
So again, the question is, have you ever had an occasion in any of those circumstances to test of the thousands, either thousands or hundreds of different locations in those situations?
No, I've never collected thousands of stains. I've never collected at a scene hundreds of stains.
Okay. And why is that? What are you doing? I mean, they'd all be available, right? You could test any one of them. So why don't you do that? And what is the thought process you're using to only test a fraction or a portion of them?
Judge, I'm going to object to relevancy again. How is her testimony of what she does relevant to this case?
Yeah, this is the.
This has been placed in issue. The objection is overruled.
So as a person who does this for the state crime lab, do you understand the question? Please go ahead.
Could you repeat it one more time?
Sure. So of the thousands of stains, how do you prioritize which ones of those fraction that you choose to take out of there?
So you look at the stains and you kind of look for patterns, and so you look for a grouping. And so if you see an area that has a stain, you're going to look at it and you're going to take some random samplings of it. Then you're going to look at it to see, is there any part of it that maybe looks out of place? So like it may have come from a different source, like were they all fine stains and then all of a sudden you've got this big round circular drop? That would be something different, so that you would take that. You just can't collect everything. There's time, there's resources. It's just very difficult to do something like that.
Have a number of these scenes that you've been at been indoor scenes?
Indoor and outdoor scenes, yes.
So, if something happens, for instance, in a household, there's a number of household items throughout a home, correct?
Correct.
The house may have garbage.
Objection leading.
Well, he's not done with the question yet.
The house may have garbage, dishes, food stored. It may have clothing in different places. There might be all sorts of household items, almost thousands and thousands of household items. Correct?
Objection leading and relevancy.
Well, overruled on the second ground. It's argumentative to get back to that. But you can answer.
Would you expect to see a household have thousands of items?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Do you ever on the crime scenes test every household item that is located in that household?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
No, we do not collect or test every item in the household.
Do you test every item that's in the garbage located at the household if it's not in the midst of the crime scene?
No, we do not.
Do you test every item that's in every sink in the house if you have no other evidence that takes you to those sinks?
No, we do not.
Do you test every item that is on display in the house if it does not have something that you see and observe as blood?
Judge, I'm going to object as far as cumulative at this point. I'm not, and if we need to have a sidebar on it again, relevancy and cumulative.
Sometimes there are questions that only lawyers would ask. That's when it's readily apparent, I think, where we're going and what's unfolding, and the matter is adequately covered. So move on to something else.
What, if any, testing do you focus on in outdoor areas that are not a part of the crime scene?
Objection relevancy as to outdoor areas that aren't part of a crime scene.
Cigarette butts.
Well, first of all, I don't know that we've actually had a decision made as to what is the quote crime scene, and overall.
You go ahead.
Can you repeat that one?
Sure, but it will be painful. So, what, if anything, or what do you, what, if anything, can you say about testing items outside of an indoor area where you see a crime or violent action occur?
Objection. The statement of a violent action is argumentative. Additionally, I'd argue this is cumulative information.
If it was anything other than a violent event, like a party, it's not one I'd want to be at.
Still cumulative based on previous testimony of the previous officer.
Overall.
Please tell me you remember the question.
I think I got it.
Okay, good.
So generally, you stick to what's in the tape, what's at the scene or what's at the flight path. So it would be something that would be obvious, or something that would be fresh, something would be new, something like that.
Can you tell me whether you tested cigarette butts in your life that have been outdoors?
Judge, I'm sorry. This is expert testimony.
Well, less so than the fact that it's Friday afternoon. Let's move on.
Well, I'd like to ask her if DNA analysis on cigarette butts is impacted by rainy weather.
That's a fair question.
Okay, so that's what I'll ask. Okay.
Judge, he's using this witness as an expert witness in the field of crime scene investigation at this point.
If she knows,
but there's no notice to this and to her conclusions or her offering expositional testimony. They have to provide a notice. They did not do it. Should not be able to go down any further.
Is this something that you feel that you're competent to respond to this knowledgeably, based upon your experience
Yes,
and training?
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have tested cigarette butts. Yes, if they are exposed to the elements, again, the weather, the sunlight, the rain can wash away the DNA.
Judge, I don't have any further questions.
Question?
Yes, thank you.
Would this be a logical time to do a break?
Well, actually, it is.
Okay.
How lengthy would you expect your examination to be? And I'm not trying to rush you.
No, I'd say approximately 30 minutes.
Let's take a break, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read watch your list of any comments.
Why does that happen every time?
2 years, but that's what she would testify about. What we're hearing today is trial by ambush. And
Oh,
very
Lord, what are they
clearly,
arguing now?
the statutory
What did I miss?
scheme is in 971.23 sub 1E is that if they're going to offer expert testimony, which this is, even if it's expository, if they're going to offer that, they have to give notice. They gave notice about one part, but now they're trying to sneak in this other part. And just because, that they're trying to bootleg it off of some earlier testimony about crime scene analysis or, excuse me, crime scene processing.
They hadn't announced the results when I said that comment. So yes, but I think she was very vague. Like, she's like, oh, it probably was from blood. Yeah, okay, they found his DNA in there, but she couldn't say what it came from, whether it was, skin cells or saliva or semen or I'm hoping it wasn't. Oh. Yeah. What did I miss? Search high and low. Yeah, it's the Aussie spelling, so it's the defense rests. But yeah, I will oh, is that my link? Is that different to the one I've got on my channel? No, it doesn't matter. No. It just made me just made her credibility look, for a scientist, it just wasn't up to scratch for me. Does that make sense? For my standards. For an expert witness to use the word probably, whilst I believe her, it was just, what am I looking for? Discord. In my channel. Just want to check and see if it's the same link that I've got. Because the girls can't get on there. No, it's different. When you share the link straight from Discord, it creates a new. Yeah, no, that's what I was explaining before. But I got Tanya's son to create a permanent link, which is what this one in my channel is supposed to be, but it's not. Let me click it and see what it does for me. All right, so it's telling me to log in. I can't remember my password. All right, let me see if I can use the QR code. So this QR code doesn't come up when you guys click onto that link. Rescan the QR code or continue the login process. Oh my God. Come on. Show me the money. Login. You're in. Start talking. Yeah, just got your message. Well, it went just in case. All right. Oh, yeah, it's opened up on my desktop. Oh, okay. Here we go. Grandma's online. Oh, look, there's Udaf up there. Hello. Good go. True Crime Metrics. That's me right there. All right, so that's mine. So all the things on the left-hand side here are just like, upcoming content. This, I wanted to set this to like automatically every time I post a live to automatically come up on there. And this one is suggestions from other people for content. And then we've got mods only. This is the main one where everyone chats. Oh, hello. Teresa's in there. Hello. Cindy's in there too. Who else is in there? Oh, Jake. That's Tan's son. All right. So you girls found it. Excellent. Then I wanted to set up. So this one down the bottom is content from other channels. So any other YouTube channels are welcome to post their links on there, which Grandma does. And she's set that up with a bot. See how it says at everyone? And I want to do the same thing, but I don't know how to set the bots up. So I wanted to have, as soon as someone joins, a message automatically gets sent to them saying, welcome, thank you, blah, 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 blah. And every live get posted to other channels as well. So that's the sort of stuff I wanted to set up. But this one here is worth joining for all of you, if you true crimers. It's the gavel drops. And they have, actually, I'm going to remove me from the stage. I'll just full screen it so you can see it. That's better. Just undo that message so you can see the bottom. Now, all this stuff on this side here, you scroll down, okay? Now, this bit here is all the, well, not all of them, but I don't know what the criteria is, but it's all true crime YouTube channels. And if you're lucky enough, you actually get a mention on there. And sure as shit, look at that. There she is. So every live that I do, they pick up and it goes into here for other people to see. So there's Recovery Addict, Ada Brown, Nicole Med, 13th the Brandy Churchwell, Law and Lumber, Grizzly True Crime, Runkle the Bailey, Uncivil Law, and then there's me. Ta-da! So yeah, that's all your true crime YouTubers, and then they go further down. So what's in session? This is your court cases that are in session. And so they'll basically, you can go on to each one of these. It tells you the date when you open it up a bit more. There it is there. So these are the dates of the trials generally. And if you were to click on any of those, so let's click on, well, this one is supposed to start this week. So it then creates a thread to that case. And it's everything from media posts to anyone who posts, who does a live on it generally, articles. They put all the documents, court documents in there. They link it all to that one case, pretty much. And generally, I haven't been on my desktop before, but generally you click on the name, or you swipe it down somehow. Don't know how to do it on here, but it tells you. Oh, it's got it here already. So right at the top under the heading, it tells you what the day was, who the victim is, the date of the offence, the defendant's name, the court dates, the motion hearings, all the docket information, and then the link to where you can search it up, as well as the case number and all that. So, and what the charges are. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And then you can, a lot of the time, the court documents, they will link down the, I haven't done it on this. Oh, here we go. There you go. So this one is the documents thread, and this one is the chat about it. So you can go in and have a chat about the case, or you can actually just go in and have a look at all the documents. It's just, if you're into true crime and deep diving, Cindy, you'll love this. So I highly recommend As the Gavel Drops on Discord. There you go. I think I've just earned my space on there. And let me get back on the stage. There we go. Did you hear all that? Oh, he has the driest sense of humor, doesn't he? Really dry. We can see what you're... Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, sorry. I was trying to explain how to do it. Did you hear me, or was I on mute? You already remember. Yeah. Aw, of course she is. Tags. Oh, what's going on with that? He's I know uncivil law's been following that, but I hadn't heard anything recently. I knew he just had his kids taken away, didn't he? Because they were doing a lot of blow. Ooh. Yeah. So yeah, update. All right. So yes, that Discord channel, A1. Right. Now I can drink my coffee. And does anyone know what they're actually arguing over? Because I missed it while I was on the loo. No worries.
I apologize, but I'm actually going to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm sure that will come as I'm sure.
Judge is apologizing for interrupting.
I don't know. Did she actually give an expert opinion, or did she merely state the historical fact that she has experience with cigarette butts that have been exposed to the elements, and whether she had been able to obtain any results in her studies?
Well, Ms. Graves specifically asked her every single thing that you're offering an opinion about, which that is an opinion.
No, I said the historical fact. Have you been able to? I may be wrong. Well, I didn't think he actually asked for an opinion as opposed to an experience.
Well, he asked both. He might not have used the word opinion, but he's asking both. That's essentially what he's asking for. And that's why he was going through her qualifications about all those years, responding to crime scenes and all of that, none of which we had notice of either. Yeah, and he's asking about the bleach questions and the van and all of that. That's all after he's already qualified as an expert and presented it to the jury, like, she's the top dog over at the crime lab, and she might be, but we weren't given notice that this was going to be part of her testimony. How do we respond to that? Do we ask for an adjournment so we could go out and find two more experts, one on bleach and one on, crime scene processing? We're sort of left flat-footed here without any recourse.
Well, and your recourse, before we got on the record, I thought you were talking about striking something.
Yeah, I want to strike everything that's beyond the questions about, yes, I found Rosario's, DNA on this sample, boom. And then everything going forward should be stricken.
Yeah, Judge, this is a jury. I guess, my answer to all of these questions is this is a jury trial. They have a notice of expert. They know it's a crime lab witness. They present through their cross-examination a theory of the case, a defense of the case. Everything else that the state is providing here is rebuttal. And so we are allowed to, we wouldn't have to notice a person in terms of rebuttal. I had no idea I was going to ask her the bleach question until until the cross-examination stuff has been happening. And so I formulated the bleach question based on direct response to what's happening. I had no idea I was going to ask her about cigarette butts. It's come up because of the cross-examination. That's what rebuttal is. And I am rebutting it with the witness who's available and who is here. There is no requirement that to counter what the defense said. I had no idea they were going to show pictures of cigarette butts. I had no idea that they were going to indicate that this was not a cleaned vehicle with bleach stains. And so these are pieces of information that are being talked about in cross-examination. There's an available expert who provides some opinions about those things based on her own experience and knowledge. There is no way I would be able to notice about every different possibility. And that isn't the expectation of the law. Jury trials will have some moments of surprise. And the court has said a couple of times, when you ask a question, sometimes it doesn't turn out well for you because sometimes there's an ability to counter it from the other side. How would I ever be able to anticipate all the things I might ask an expert based on what they say?
Judge, rebuttal is when the defense brings something new to the table that then they want to react to. Everything, every single question that was asked on cross-examination, every single picture, every single item that was discussed here has all come from the state, all of it. So there's zero surprise. I'm so surprised about the cigarette butts. We got the pictures from them.
But
Yes, you just pop on by. Now, what are we doing? No, they, believe it or not, Nicola, Udahef is on your side. 100, actually 200% that he's on your side and believes that Zach, oh, hang on. No, he doesn't. Whoops, my bad. But no, we just listened to the DNA expert. The dot on the door apparently was from the victim, that tiny little dot. Because I asked, when she was going through her evidence, I'm like, there's no DNA in the house. There's nothing on the crime scene. And how the hell do you get, this supposed body into his minivan without any evidence whatsoever? And that's when she came up with the DNA. Hang on, I'll see if I can find it. It was only just, it was just here. No.
You want to collect everything that's possible that's there.
And now I'm going to show you Exhibit 1, and this is number 3-1.
It's overruled.
Would you expect someone to clean something like a...
Dewey, so I don't think I looked at any of the paperwork.
And you as an analyst are not focused on any particular suspect. You have no one in mind to figure out, who's who in terms of the DNA determinations, do you?
No.
Now, are you able to give this jury an opinion as to whether the substance you tested for DNA in the stain or the pinhead you mentioned, whether that, are you able to form an opinion as to what the source of DNA is? In other words, when we talk about semen, skin, all those things, do you have an opinion for the jury regarding which of the various sources that DNA comes from?
Yeah, this is the bit I didn't like.
Okay, and what is your opinion as to what the source of the DNA A1 is?
Based on my education, training, and experience, given the color and the way that the
was
looked, I would say
probably
blood.
And are you able to indicate that? You're able to indicate that by appearance. Is there something about the results that you had that also allows you to assist in that conclusion?
Yes, the type of genetic testing we do and the locations that we look at are human specific.
So this is human. This is the DNA of that is human DNA, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So let's do this. So are you able to do essentially a process of elimination as part of your analysis?
Yes, that's part of our analysis.
Okay. Did this, based on your conclusions and the results, was this human hair?
No, it was not.
Where is it?
Like a pinhead dot of a dark stain.
And so now I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 1, photo 314. Are we a little closer in on this picture?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and again, can you just point for the jury? You probably still can't.
Yes, that's
Was luminol put on it?
No.
Why? I'm going to show you exhibit 1.
That one.
I'm not coming up with the word. At this size, are you able to now see the speck visible in this? Are you able to see any characteristics of it? And is there a shape or anything else to it that was of any significance to you at any point?
It was more like, it was a shape that maybe,
So are you the person, at that point, ultimately, you've seen it in person, correct?
correct,
You've seen it in context, you know where it's located, you know its characteristics by being able to look at it, and even enhanced, right?
correct,
Okay, and now you are going to do an analysis of it, I assume?
that's correct,
Okay, using the usual machinery and methods as best you can, correct?
that is correct,
All
yes.
right, so you have told us previously on other samples that you did a chemical test for blood in multiple other samples. You recall that in your testimony?
Yes, I do.
Did you do that as to A1?
No, I didn't.
No,
Okay,
I
so
let it-
why didn't you, if you thought this might be blood, why didn't you do it on this sample?
This sample was so small, I'm like a pinhead size. So again, I just wanted to use every amount that we had available for testing, for the genetic testing.
I'm gonna go back for a second to number 311, exhibit 1, 311. Did you, and I know you weren't the primary person, but did you overall take a look at this vehicle in terms of the back of it?
Yeah, I did. I looked around the vehicle, I looked inside the vehicle, and I looked in the back of it.
And do you see the whitish or discoloring
Yeah, I've missed it
stains
again.
that are located in some of the carpet that's above the cutoff portion of the carpet?
Yes,
Now he goes
And
into bleach.
did that appear to be caused by a substance that there was an odor of in the vehicle, if you know? Finding were you able to make as to AR?
AR was a single source male profile.
And who was that?
That was from Rosario Gutierrez.
There
Same
you go.
person as the other matches that we've talked about in your earlier report?
That is correct.
Then
You really need to look at Zachariah. I don't think Udahef's intention is to spread misinformation. I know that this is a controversial case and it's very divided, very much like Karen Reid. It's either black or white in this case, and I don't know enough about the case yet to have made up my opinion so far. I have watched a lot of stuff from Nick Starrow, who I know is a big supporter of Zach's innocence and has raised quite a lot of money for it. And he gave me a bit of a back history of what happened or how things led to where they got to here. So in my mind, there is still doubt. But, you know, that we're all entitled to have our own opinions. So, yeah, it is what it is, Don. Now, where were we up to? They were arguing over cigarette butts. And whether she was an expert opinion on analysing cigarettes. Yeah, that's what I just played. That's correct, yeah. As long as we do it in a respectful manner, we're all entitled. just like people, there's thousands and millions of people out there that think Ty is guilty, 100%, and that's a trial close to my heart. So, come on, lady. So, did anyone hear what she said about the cigarette butts? I don't think there was anyone else. I don't think they actually looked into anyone else. The initial stages of the investigation, because the ex-wife found the crime scene, apparently they were going through a custody battle for their 3 children at the time, or prior to this, and the police called Zachariah because the ex-wife pretty much from the start said, I bet you it was him. And so they called him in because she accused him of stalking her. So they basically were questioning him over stalking charges, and mentioned nothing about, because I've seen the interview they did, the interrogation they did on him. And in that, he couldn't even tell you what the victim's name was, and he appeared calm, collected. He answered the questions without hesitation. He came across as really credible to me, but as I said, I skipped that without seeing anything else. Like, I watched that out of context. So I don't believe that they really looked anywhere else for other suspects. I think it was just the narrative from the start, pretty much. Oh, did they? Look, it's bound to happen. You know, everyone interprets stuff different ways. Everyone analyzes stuff different ways. Everyone applies their own personal knowledge and experiences to what they're hearing as well. And it's human nature, you know, that's part of being an individual. We all have our own set of thoughts and processes, and you know, there could be 100 people watching this trial with us, and every one of them have a different opinion. So yeah, that's the nature of the game, unfortunately. So you can only go by the facts that you're given and that are presented at the trial. I didn't see any pre-trial stuff either. Apparently there was a fair bit of stuff that the defence wasn't allowed to bring in to do with the custody stuff, but I don't know. I'll wait until I've heard it all. Let's go. We're nearly done on
Such
day
as
4, I think.
the traffic gear shifter, things included in State's Exhibit 39, that you had said the DNA of Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Anderson were excluded, correct?
That's correct.
So I want to draw your attention, and this is more for purposes for understanding to the jury, to page 6 of your report.
Yeah, I would get snippy at someone if they they came on and told me that I was guilty too. I would.
Exhibit 39. I'm going to zoom in here. So can you explain what this chart is for?
Under 31?
Correct.
So that's if a type of statistic is used. Those are the stats. Those are the way those stats are presented. probabilistic probable
Excellent.
genetics.
Exactly right.
STR mix is what it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And so when someone's excluded, when there's a mixture of DNA, and you note that they're excluded, that means that there's zero chance, zero probability that their DNA is included in that, correct?
Right.
So in these cases where you came to conclusions that Mr. Gutierrez was excluded, that meant there's zero chance that his DNA was located on those items.
Look out, Udahev.
So in State Exhibit 39, I'm going
You're
to draw
married,
your attention
sister.
to page 2 of 6. There was item Z, which were swabs reportedly collected from the cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And in your report, you had noted for item Z that, I'm going to zoom out just a little so we can see all of that, that there's
I will go and have a
additional
look at
possible
that.
trace allele was detected. However, no conclusions will be made regarding the allele.
Of
Can you
course.
explain what that means to a jury?
So that means that there may be 1, 2 location or items that are there, but they're just a trace, and you can't make any comparisons to them. You can't draw any conclusions to them.
And there's different types of trace, types of trace alleles. There could be trace and there could be an artifact.
An artifact is a little bit different than a trace.
Can you explain the difference?
A trace is maybe a little bit of DNA, but not enough, but it's showing up at this genetic location. An artifact is something that used to be more common, like in the analysis process, you would get a spike, an artifact, which may or may not have been DNA. It just could have been a blip in the machinery, things like that.
And so in this case, so if I can just maybe more simplify it, so artifact, if you see an allele, that could be an artifact. It could just be a byproduct of the testing equipment, something that you cannot be certain is actually remnants of an individual's DNA, so can't make any conclusions.
That's correct, yeah.
But when you say something is a trace allele, then you're saying that it is trace DNA, so it is a component of someone's DNA structure.
Yes, it could possibly be from someone's DNA, but there's just not enough of it to render an opinion.
So for item Z, the cell phone, you had made the opinion and conclusion that it was a trace allele, not an artifact allele.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, just if you'd be so kind. And what was the exhibit number on that? 186? 186. I'm showing what's been previously marked as 186. It's going to show up on the screen. You don't have any objection. Okay, so before we get into what Exhibit 186, the reports that were just shown are just simply your final conclusions, correct?
Correct.
That before you do that, there are a lot of tests and a lot more documents that are produced that we didn't see in those reports, right?
Right, the paperwork associated with my case file, yes.
Okay, so the state's been kind enough to put up what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 186. Can you explain to the jury what is being shown before them?
I can zoom in further if you.
Yes, please.
Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So that's what the data looks like when it comes off the analyzer. And this sample, this is a reagent blank number 5.
Hey, can you scroll down? Just right to the second one, yep. So how about this right here?
Yeah, that's the data from item Z1.
And in this case?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And you've seen this data?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And so I guess if you could explain to the jury, so and I guess I'm going to have it go to page 2, the top of page 2, a little bit further down. Right there's perfect. Thank you. So you see the yellow square box that says TH01?
Correct.
Can you explain, and then the other ones too, the VWA D21S 211, can you explain to the jury what those letters and numbers mean?
So the letters on the and the yellow box and the green box, those are the locations that we're looking at. And then the peaks, those are, that is the type at that location.
And so those are, so under TH01 in this situation, and this is for item Z1, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And Z1 was the swabs taken from the DNA sample from the cell phone.
Yes, it is.
And so you had noted in your report that there was a trace allele detected. So in the TH01 locus, do you see the trace allele that you were referring to?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell the jury what that is?
That's an allele that's very low, and that's what I'm calling a trace.
Which number is that?
I'm sorry, it's 9.3.
Okay, and so that's the 9.3 allele is a trace DNA of an unknown individual, correct?
Yes, it is.
And in your report, you said you couldn't make any conclusions about that particular trace allele, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But you would be able to look at the locus of Mr. Anderson, TH01, and look at his alleles to determine if he carries that allele, correct?
Yes, I could.
I'd ask that Exhibit 186 be moved into evidence.
Is there objection? No. Proceed.
Thank you. Pulling up on the Elmo, what's been previously marked as Defense Exhibit 187. Doesn't zoom out anymore. So first, before I show this, I'm going to hand it to you. And if you could just say what Defense Exhibit 187 is.
It is an overall of the profile that I developed from item.
I'm gonna
And what
check
was
it out
item
after the
E1?
stream. I'll have a look at that
There's
page.
notation on there.
Oh, there is. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a standard from Zachariah Anderson.
Okay, thank you. And you'd say
Uh-huh.
that is it loci, loci? I can never remember.
Locus.
Locus. Okay. And then all of
You
those
missed
are
all the
listed and
excitement.
the alleles for Mr. Anderson, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So when we look at the TH01 alleles, and I'll zoom in here as much as I can.
And I like your reasoning in Discord.
Which
Go ahead.
alleles does Mr. Anderson's DNA carry for TH01?
A 7 and a 9.
And so the trace
It has to be the
allele
reason.
that you had found or located on item Z1 was 9.3, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And Mr. Anderson does not carry that allele.
No, he does not.
So that trace DNA on the cell phone does not belong to Mr. Anderson.
I can't make an opinion on that. I don't know whose allele it is
But
or isn't.
the 9.3 allele scientifically could not be Mr. Anderson's.
It does not show up in his profile, no.
The state had asked you a series of questions about item A1, which was the swab taken from the stain in the back of the van. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Yes, I do.
And so, and you testified that this stain was the size of basically a needlehead or pinhead.
Yes, a pinhead, yes.
Very, very, very small.
Yes, it was.
And so when you swabbed that, did you swab that yourself?
No, I did not.
But you'd agree that when an item is swabbed, did they take the whole stain off? Do you know?
That's what, when in our conversation with the analyst, I had said, collect the whole stain, as much of it as you can, onto one swab.
Okay, so when they swab that, they're also getting any potential items, anything really, that could have been on top of the stain, correct?
Correct. Anything in that area that they swabbed would be collected on the swab.
So anything that could have been below, underneath the stain as well, correct?
That is possible, yes.
So you had talked about how the state had walked you through exclusion and not exclusion, about the source of the DNA in this case. And the state asked if you were able to give an opinion on whether it came from blood. You remember that line of questioning?
Yes, I do.
The state had, though, asked you about the possibility that it could come from skin cells, and you said that there could have been skin cells present, correct?
Yes, that's possible.
So it's also possible that
Hello.
the DNA was from skin cells, correct?
Come here.
Yes, that could be a possibility.
And so I want to go back then to, you're obviously extremely qualified. You've been running tests to these natures, and in your in your day-to-day field, when you give a report about whether something is or isn't blood, at the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, in order to come to that conclusion, it requires testing, correct?
That is correct. We do testing, yes.
And there was no test completed on that stain, correct?
There was no screening test, no confirmatory test done on that stain.
So there's no way to confirm that item A1 was blood, correct?
Objection, that's argumentative. She's already stated her opinion based on observation, does confirm it. So to say there's
That's-
no way to confirm is an argumentative question.
Overruled.
Sorry.
Sorry, do you need me to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so
But
based
give
on
me
the
a
fact that there
question.
was no testing, that there's no way to scientifically confirm that the stain or what the swab or whatever it was blood, correct?
Correct. I did not confirm the swab for blood.
So it's possible that it could be blood, also possible it could be from, not the stain, but the DNA could be from skin cells.
That would be a possibility.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Well, you've indicated it's possible that it's skin cells. Is that the opinion you are rendering here today to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
It's possible that skin cells, in my experience, skin cells don't give such a robust profile because you need a lot of them. They have to be viable. Blood gives you a very good profile.
So based on how robust this profile is, do you continue to have the opinion you've indicated previously that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that this sample was blood?
That is my opinion, that it was blood.
Nothing else?
Any questions?
No.
You can step down.
Oh. No.
Well, balances on a pinhead, doesn't it?
Let's see.
We just defer for just a minute.
You may.
Well, now, once the trial is finished, you can all head over to the Discord channel in the general chat and have a chat all together while I go to bed. Yeah, it looked like there was bleach in the back on the carpet and stained it clear. Yeah. Funny, you could see Uda Hef's private chat message. Oh dear. Cracks me up. Are they going to continue anymore? Any more witnesses today? Oh, yes, we have. Oh, another kitty cat. Hello. God. Oh, and you're wet too. Oh, dear. What do I do with the wet pussy? Hey. Oops, said that out. Come on. Next.
Short.
That's what we anticipate.
That
was the subject of our comments.
Brief. Good point. Raise your right hand, please.
You can't download it
Where the testimony.
on your phone or on your PC. You should be able to. It's an app. And it's free. Shit out of luck. Udahef, would you mind posting that link back in chat for her, please? And for me, so I can copy it, put it in mine on my channel. I can't even get that right.
You're about to give in this matter.
Yep.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated.
Can't move the chair.
Could you please state your name for the record and spell it?
Christy Raditz Ortiz, Kristyraddatz, -ORTIZ -ORTIZ.
And Ms. Reyes-Ortiz, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes,
How many times?
twice.
Did you know somebody named Rosario Gutierrez?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was Rosario Gutierrez to you?
He was a former partner, and he and I have a 14-year-old son together.
And
Get rid of
that
the
14-year-old son back in May of 2020, would he have been 11?
Yes.
And when did you first meet Mr. Gutierrez, best you can remember?
Around 2001,
And what year in general was your son born, your joint son?
2008.
And obviously you guys broke up, fair to say?
Yes.
After the two of you
Oh,
stopped
okay.
a romantic relationship, did Mr. Gutierrez remain in your son's life?
Yes, most definitely.
They won't be kicked out, will they? They still have found the channel and can stay there. They won't be kicked out after 24 hours, will they? But there's no point me posting it on my page. I get the drift.
Would you have considered him to be an involved parent?
Very involved.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming as your son got older, he and his father had interests in common, things they like to do together.
Very much so.
What kind of things did they like to do together? What were their in common interests?
One of them was baseball, but they both love the outdoors and just learning together, learning anything.
And you talked about baseball. Was that a lifelong passion for Rosalio?
It was.
And was he happy when your son also picked up that same kind of passion for the game?
Yeah.
What kind of things revolving around baseball would they do together?
They'd go out in the yard and play catch together. They would go to baseball games when they could. They would watch the World League, Little League World Series and that on TV. They would do practices. He was always there for practice. He was always there for his games. They would go beyond. They'd go early, stay late, those types of things.
And your son's actually pretty good at baseball, from what I hear. Is
He
that
is,
accurate?
yeah.
And so was he both back in 2020 on a local Little League team, but also on some travel league teams?
He was on a local Little League team, I think, Kiwanis, and was getting ready to start the traveling team.
And did Rosalio take on a coaching role for that Little League baseball team?
He did.
And was that something that Rosalio was excited about?
Yes, very excited.
Had he been looking forward to being an official coach?
Do you object as far as hearsay and speculation as to what Mr. Gutierrez was or was not looking forward to? And if there's going to be question on it, there needs to be better foundation.
I think that's a fair observation.
Mr. Reyes-Ortiz, did you have occasion to observe Mr. Gutierrez during these practices and these games of your son while being present?
Yes.
And were you able to, based on your observations of how he was acting and what he was doing at these different practices and games, develop an opinion about what you would characterize his behavior like?
Yes.
And based on your observations of Rosalio at these practices and games that you've described, how would you describe what you observed to be his feelings regarding being involved in your son's baseball career?
Enthused.
And obviously you knew that your son was in the Little League team?
Yes.
And as part of signing him up, was there also a sign up for coaches?
Yes.
And for the season for 2020, based on your knowledge, was Rosalio Gutierrez set to be a coach of your son's Little League team?
Yes, he was.
And was that slightly different than in years prior where he had been more of a volunteer, if you know?
Yes.
So he was actually going to be an official on-field coach. Fair to say, in knowing Mr. Gutierrez, that he didn't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
But was baseball something that he, for your son, sought to spend whatever money he did have on?
Yes, he would.
And how did he do that?
Don't object as far as speculation and relevance.
So if I may.
The question actually doesn't seem like it's seeking information that would be outside of her personal knowledge. And she tells me it's going to be brief examination, so I'm going to take her at her word. So,
And Judge, when has baseball ever not been relevant?
well, who can argue with that? So go ahead.
So would Rosalio spend what money he did have on things like baseball for your son?
When he could, yeah.
And would that involve things like extra hitting lessons, coaching lessons, things like that?
Yeah.
Now, at this time, back in May of 2020, who did your son primarily live with?
He lived with me.
And distance-wise, how far approximately was your residence at that time from Mr. Gutierrez's residence?
About a 3-minute car drive, so very close.
And so I know this was COVID time back in May of 2020, but around this time frame, how often was your son seeing his father?
Probably at least 3 to 4 times a week, because we would switch back and forth with who had him during virtual school.
And I guess prior to the world ending in COVID in 2020, was your son's actual school bus pickup stop outside of Mr. Gutierrez's residence?
Yes, it was.
And so on days when you would have your son and you would bring him to the bus stop, would he occasionally see his father then as well?
Yes, we would.
Would you consider your custody arrangement to be casual in terms of where your son would be staying on any given day?
Very casual. Sometimes it changed, at the last minute.
And at this point in May of 2020, did your son have his own cell phone?
Yes, he did.
And was that a way he would communicate with Mr. Gutierrez when he wasn't with him?
Yes, all the time.
How would you describe the frequency of that communication when you had your son with you and he would be reaching out to his father?
Probably at least once a day, if not multiple times a day.
So they talked a lot?
Yes. Whether it was text or talk.
Jack, as far as hearsay,
Yeah, proof.
Now directing your attention to May 15th and May 16th of 2020, for that weekend leading up to Sunday night the 17th, where was your son staying for those days?
He was with his father.
And was that unusual?
No.
And besides your son and Rosario, were you aware of anyone else was also with them for those couple of days leading up to the night of the 17th?
His younger sister, Ava.
I'm just going to show you a picture of what's marked as State's Exhibit 55.
Whoa.
I'm approaching
Is
the
anyone
bus
else
marked as
getting
State's
feedback?
Exhibit 55.
Or is it
Can
just
you
me?
tell me if you recognize the people in this picture?
Yes.
And just for brevity's sake, would this be Mr. Gutierrez,
Yes.
your son, and his other daughter?
Yes.
Judge, I would move State's Exhibit 55 into evidence and ask to publish it to the jury, not on the electronics, given the identities of the children that we would.
Normally, it's have you cleared out your emails or like videos on your emails and message threads and stuff? That's what takes up all the space. Unfortunately, I put everything on the cloud so that it doesn't keep up my space. Oh yeah, and how many times he says I wonder if you can just log into that's okay. If you can just log in on like Google and not actually download the app but get in that way. I don't know enough about Discord to.
Mr. Gutierrez remain close.
We did.
Would you have considered him to be a good friend of yours in May of 2020?
Yes.
It took me 10 minutes to find it. That's how crap I am at Discord. I'm saying I had 3 messages and I couldn't find them.
Your attention to May 17th in the hours close to 8 p.m. Do you recall being at your house roughly a little before 8 p.m. that day?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recall happening that day regarding your son and Mr. Gutierrez?
I recall my son being dropped off by his dad. I didn't see him drop him off, but I recall him dropping him off. He came in and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm home," and brought his things to his room, and we got ready for the next day. My fiance, who was in the driveway, saw him drop him off, and they waved at each other, and that was that.
Since May 17th of 2020, have you heard from Rosario Gutierrez at all?
Not at all.
To the best of your knowledge, obviously in raising your son, has your son heard from Mr. Gutierrez at all?
No.
Have there been any further contacts from Mr. Gutierrez to your son's phone since May 17th of 2020?
No.
Was Mr. Gutierrez the type of person that would have just disappeared from his son's life?
No, he wasn't.
And how do you know that?
Because I don't think there's anything in this world that could separate him from his son and his daughter. there's just nothing I could imagine that would he loved his kids, that they were his world.
And obviously, we're talking about almost 3 years ago now. So Mr. Gutierrez would have missed countless birthdays,
Yes.
first days of school,
Yep.
sporting events, important school events.
Yeah.
And do you believe that's something Mr. Gutierrez would have voluntarily ever did?
Never. No.
Question from May 17th. Do you know roughly what time your son was dropped off on May 17th?
It was somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. I think it was between it was a little closer to 8, maybe 7:40, something like that. And I don't remember the exact time, but yeah, between 7:30 and 8 p.m.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you remember speaking with officers, in this case, I believe it was one officer, Officer Ruha?
Yes.
And you had explained to him what had happened when your son was dropped off on May 17th, 2020, correct?
Yes.
And you had information that Mr. Gutierrez was going to be going to Eileen Knowles' house to check on her sink after dropping off your son, correct?
I don't recall.
If I were to show you a copy of your written statement, would that help refresh your memory?
Yep.
Come on. Oops.
Did that help refresh your recollection?
I'm still reading it.
Oh, sure,
Okay.
sorry. You received information that Mr. Gutierrez was heading over to Eileen Knowles' house to check on her sink.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This calls for hearsay. Very
Hello,
specific
baby. Hello, baby.
that is coming through a third-party witness.
Sure, I'm using it for, not for the truth of the matter asserted, but rather effect on the listener for other reasons than of what this witness's perception of what Mr. Gutierrez could have possibly been going to do.
Your Honor,
Which she,
Effect on the listener is not an exception to the hearsay rule. Expressed that way.
Your Honor, if I may be heard on this,
Why not?
the answer calls for what a third party told her. The truth of the matter asserted, otherwise she'd be speculating.
you had a guess of where Mr. Gutierrez was going on May 17th, 2020, correct?
Objection, it calls for hearsay to answer her speculative guess on where he may have been going.
Well, it actually, I think this question is probably okay, but it's going to be the end of the line.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We need to look at your written statement again.
I had.
Well, wait a minute.
Right.
That's kind of hearsay-ish.
I'll rephrase it. I'll just ask it straight up. Did you think that Mr. Gutierrez might have had a date that night and didn't want to tell your son?
No.
Looking at a single.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll move on.
Yeah, so-
Right after that, being struck the record as argumentative and just inappropriate.
Well, I don't know if I'd embrace those reasons, but you can disregard, well, whatever, what response there was to that question. Go ahead.
You had knowledge that Mr. Gutierrez started dating a woman with a Facebook name of Sadie Jane, correct?
Not until after we realized he was missing.
And did you ever meet Sadie Jane prior to May 17th, 2020?
If I didn't know of her, then no, I did not. No.
And Mr. Gutierrez, you said you had spoke with him on a regular basis,
Yes.
correct? And he never mentioned her to you?
No, he did not.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions?
Nothing based on that.
You can step down, ma'am.
As promised, Judge.
Very well done. All right, we're done for the day?
Done for the day.
A well-earned weekend. And please don't read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. Don't discuss the
right.
case with anyone.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let's get rid of you and let's make you, if you have to, bigger. All right. So tomorrow, we will start on day. What are we on? This is day 5, wasn't it? No, day 4. So tomorrow, day 5. And then Sarah Boone's sentencing hearing is at 1:30. So we'll have to do it after. I'm not sure whether I should do a separate stream. No, I won't. I'll just cut it out later. Yeah, we'll work it out. So if we start at 8-ish, that gives us 5 hours. That's plenty of time. Maybe I'll start at 9. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. So it'll be between 8 and 9 tomorrow morning, your time, and then straight afterwards we'll go into the Sarah Boone sentencing. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. Might have to do that mobile on the bed. Yeah. Yep. I agree. So it's a big day tomorrow and a big week, because then we'll have to do Tuesday's Ashley Benefield's sentencing as well. So yeah, I've got to find some time to sleep in amongst that. All righty. Well, thank you very much for listening and for your opinions and for your comments, and yeah, for joining Discord. You're all welcome to head over there if you would like and continue the chat. This little black duck's going to bed though. Monday. Yes, Melody is yes, Thursday the 5th on my birthday. So we'll be watching that as well. It's going to be a big week because we've got the podcast on Saturday morning as well. So 7 days. Ooh, 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 the defense is going to need some rest. All right, my darlings. Mwah. Love you all. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay warm, stay safe, and don't do anything I wouldn't do, which doesn't really leave much. Bye.
Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule at the defense rests. Justice served in an honest fight. True crime tales till the verdict's right. Solving more than just trivial quests, where sentences rule and the defense rests.